Hey guys, Sean here. Today, Luke and I will be ranking the best anime decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! For part 1, we'll be ranking all the decks in Duel Monsters. So let's get right into it. As we have a few tiers here, we have Screw the Rules, It's No Monster, It's a God, Red Eyes Based Dragon, Beta the Bitchless Warrior, and a third rate duelist.
Okay, starting things off, we got Dark Magician. Now, are we basing this based on like how they performed in the anime themselves?
So we're basing it on how cool the deck is, any like new support that's come out since, how good the deck is in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And you know, just like, we can be very fucking personal about this because this is not like a serious competitive tier list.
Yeah.
This kind of incorporates everything, you know?
Although all of our opinions matter because we are the definitive Yu-Gi tubers when it comes to tier lists.
Exactly.
You know? Okay, looking at Dark Magician, I feel like it's kind of a mid deck, but just based on the amount of bullshit Yugi got away with in the anime, I'll say it's like high up there. Probably Screwed Rules, because that's literally what Yugi did most of the time.
That's true.
It would be, I say it would be a low Screwed Rules based on like all the other shit that's about to come up. But yeah, I think Yugi definitely screwed the rules a few times with his Dark Magician bullshit. So, like, if you want to see ultimate bullshit of Dark Magician rulings, all you need to do is look at Pegasus Castle, where it is Yuki versus Joey, and Time Wizard makes Dark Magician old, but that makes him more powerful. Bullshit. Fucking bullshit. Put it in Screw the Rules, because that's what he did.
And like, if we're talking about, you know, actual, like, how good the deck is, deck kind of fucking sucks. However, you know, it's you know, it's fucking Dark Magician. It's the most nostalgic Yu-Gi-Oh card besides Blue Eyes. I think it belongs in its own top tier.
Yeah, it gets legacy support like every year, so you know.
Exactly. All right, Red Eyes Black Dragon. As much as it would suit it to be here, I think it belongs in Beta the Bitchless Warrior. Red Eyes suck. In just like, they're just so bad. Like, they look cool, and that's about it.
Yeah. I would, just based on like the absolute bullshit support it got with Dragoon, I would put it in Red Eyes Based Dragon, because I will say Red Eyes players, I don't like you, but I have to admit I do respect you. Your deck fucking sucks, but you stick by it, and
true.
That gets utmost respect from me. So I would put it in the mid tier.
Yeah, that's fair. The problem with Red Eyes is that it doesn't know what the fuck it wants to be. Does it want to be a burn deck, a combo deck, like an Xyz deck, a fusion deck, a ritual deck even? It doesn't know what the fuck it wants to be. And it's not good at anything. It's just awful. But you know, it's iconic, it's cool, it's Red Eyes. It belongs in Red Eyes Based Dragon.
Yes.
Okay, Harpie Ladies. I'd say probably... Here's the thing, it'll definitely go way above Red Eyes.
Yeah.
If it's in the same tier. But yeah, it's like, you know, it's a good deck.
Yeah, my Valentine was also a better duelist than Joey as well. So if we're going solely based off of the anime and legacy support, I'd actually put it a little bit higher. I'd probably put it at the end of It's No Monster, It's a God.
Honestly, I think you're right. Like, the support for Harpies is really fucking good.
Yeah, like Harpie's Feathers Storm, that fucking trap card that's played in Flunderies is actually really fucking broken a lot of win decks. And also, Harpies is a pretty good deck when you play it right. I tested with Harpies before, but I was never like playing it properly. But as far as I can see, when this deck pops off, it fucking pops off. So it's good to see that Harpies is still very strong. It got a bunch of good support with that Synchro, with Perfumer, Channelers was really good. It's very much, it turned sort of into a generic deck in the sense that it can run like a really powerful Xyz, which works as a floodgate itself. The Synchro is very good. It even has a link. So I'd say Harpies deserves a spot in It's No Monster, It's a God.
It's also the best deck in Duel Links. Let's go. Back in 2016.
Can't forget that.
Can't beat fucking Harpies. Alright. Toons. Toons are something. Like, I don't know. Toons are pretty bad. They're cool though, I will admit. Toons are fucking awesome. They can attack your opponent directly. They're kind of invincible. They really play into the anime gimmick of, oh, Toon World protects all your guys. And you know, it got some decent support. But like, it's not a good deck.
Yeah, I think it's very fucking stupid. I don't know if it's better than Red Eyes, to be honest with you.
Yeah, honestly. Like,
I think it's really fucking stupid. I don't like it at all. And also, the thing about Toons is, I'm talking about real life now, the deck is really bad, but the cards are so expensive.
Yeah.
So even the casual players can't really get into playing Toons because that Toon Blackluster Soldier is still ridiculously priced.
Yeah.
And that's like the only good sort of like quote unquote boss monster it has. So I don't know. I'd actually put it in beta, the bitchless warrior.
Yeah, I mean, like, name a Toon player who has bitches.
Exact. You can't.
Definitely not Pegasus.
Definitely not Pegasus. And Pegasus is definitely a beta ass bitch. Definitely a bottom.
Alright. Agido. This is kind of like Ishizu's Earth Fairy type deck. So obviously, if you're a player in the past like year or two, or if you're a current Master Duel player, you know that Ishizu cards are fucking broken. So, I mean, yeah, I think we fucking go up here.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, it doesn't function as a deck, but the cards are fucking insane. If it functioned as a deck, then yeah, it would be top tier. But you know. Like, Earth Fairies are just a very fucking strong kind of milling strategy. So, you know.
Yeah, I really like it. And as someone who played the Earth Fairy deck in our little speed duel tournaments that we did, I think it's actually like the most competent deck in that box. And even playing it against some of the GX sort of decks, I found it to be very good and very fun as well. Because you kind of know the principle of it. It's very easy to sort of learn, and the fact that like it was the most random deck to get the most broken cards just printed recently that you can just throw them into tier. I think that's pretty fucking good. So yeah, I think it's no monster, it's a god, definitely.
Okay, Gravekeepers. Gravekeepers are really fucking cool.
I love Gravekeepers, yeah.
Like, they're kind of toxic nowadays with like Necro Valley and shit like that. But back in the day, it wasn't too bad. It was just kind of a cool control kind of stall deck. So, you know, I'd say probably about here.
Yeah, I agree.
And they just look fucking awesome. To be honest. It's such a cool, like, archetype design.
Yeah, and also, like, I felt like that was a really good structure deck with Gravekeepers. Like, the structure deck Marek that had all the Gravekeepers in the Necro Valley. I think that was fucking dope as shit. So, both you and I probably have a bit of emotional attachment to it because we have cards from it from when we were smaller.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely have a soft spot for Gravekeepers.
Okay, Jinzo. The Jinzo archetype is trash. However, Jinzo as a card on its own is better than the whole Red Eyes archetype. So, yeah, it goes above. Because, you know, normal summon Jinzo, like tribute summon Jinzo, and then there you go, you have a fucking card that stops your opponent from activating traps.
Exactly.
Like, what else can you ask for? So, the archetype sucks. Like, it's cool that it got support, but the support is really fucking bad. It's just bad Kashtira, not even, because it's kind of like a rank 7 strategy. Like, not even, but yeah, it's just, it sucks. What else can I say? It fucking sucks. But Jinzo on his own is a better card than the whole fucking Red Eyes and Toon archetype. So there we go.
Yeah, I think if Joey stuck with Jinzo as his ace monster throughout the entire series, he probably wouldn't suck as hard as he does.
True. Okay, we got Cubics from the Dark Side of Dimensions movie. I hardly know what the fuck Cubics do, but they look cool and they're kind of decent. But like, you know,
yeah,
they're not good. They're definitely not fucking good.
I have nothing really to add to it. I mean, I played against someone who was playing Cubics at locals once. I didn't know what the fuck he was doing. But even like if your opponent usually has like the advantage of you not knowing what they're doing, that's still really good in their favor. But I had no clue what this dude was doing, and I still kicked his ass. Therefore, Cubist Mucks suck.
Let's go! Okay, Valkyries, let's fucking go! The best waifu deck ever.
I love Valkyries, I think they're fucking cool.
Valkyries are awesome. Like, they're not great, to be honest. Let's be honest for a minute. They're not great. But their gimmicks are super cool. You can swarm the field with one of their, I think, right of the Valkyries and summon like a bunch of Valkyries from your deck. It has a Mischief of the Time Goddess, which can skip your opponent's turn, which is fucking hilarious. They're just fucking awesome. They have like cards that can act as Dark Law, where you can just like banish your opponent's stuff. It's just a cool little like kind of combo swarm deck. I wish they'd have good support. That'd be fucking awesome if Valkyries like came back.
And got good reprints as well.
Yeah, Jesus fucking Christ. But yeah, in the anime they're like fucking one of the quote unquote strongest duelists, fucking Siegfried, whatever the fuck his name is. The guy who wanted to fight Kaiba. Yeah, he had them and he was like one of the most feared duelists because he could like OTK and skip your opponent's turn and shit like that. So you know, I think they go in the top of It's No Monster, it's a god because they're fucking based. Let's go, Valkyries. Okay. Amazonas. Now, I will say, Amazonas, they have a strategy. They're a very battle phase focused strategy. You know, honestly, no, they have to go up because the new support is very good.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I mean, you know, very good in terms of a fucking anime deck.
Okay, fair enough.
So yeah, like, you know, they're pretty cool. Like, they're a battle phase focused strategy. They have very strong fusions. Honestly, like, the only problem is they are a battle phase focused strategy. If they make it to the battle phase, then yeah, you win. But like, we all know how irrelevant the battle phase is nowadays. But you know, they're a really cool archetype. Obviously, Mai used them in combination with her Harpies. I don't know which was better, to be honest. But you know, I think in the modern game, Harpies are better. But Amazonas are still really cool. And it's very cool that they're still getting support. So I think they belong around here.
Definitely. I agree. I don't know much about Amazonas, but if Mai plays them, they're probably pretty good.
Alright, Gate Guardian! They suck so bad! Gate Guardian... Okay.
Oh, put it lower, please.
Yeah. I mean, the new support is okay. Like, you know, it makes the deck playable. Because, I mean, let's be honest here. Gate Guardian was not a deck. It was just like boss monsters. So, yeah, they actually made a deck around Gate Guardian, which is pretty cool. It's, like, decent, I guess. It's alright.
I think if your only comment you can say about this deck is that it is now playable, that just shows how fucking shit this thing is.
That's true.
Isn't this played by the two twins?
Yeah, the Paradox Brothers.
Yeah, didn't they have like 100% lose rate across both fucking shows? They lost in Duel Monsters and they lost in GX.
Yeah, and there was two of the fuckers.
Yeah, so
it's
fuck
like
these
double
guys.
loss.
If you lose to Cyrus Truesdale, get the fuck out of here. This is a beta the bitchless warrior.
You already know fucking Cyrus's Roid deck would be top tier of the GX tier list.
Exactly. Yeah, these guys are bitchless. They have each other though, and we can respect that. But they kind of remind me of the Island Boys, I'm just saying.
Alright, Exodia! Fucking, like, what else are you gonna say? Exodia is the fucking best. Now, it has, like, modern support, which is pretty cool. It has, like, Obliterate. It has, the legendary Exodia Incarnate. It had Mystic Mine back in the good old days. Exodia is just like such an iconic card that no matter how shit it is, there's always people that want to play it. It's always a deck that can just like win. It doesn't matter like what's going on. Like if you build your deck to draw a bunch of cards, you can just get Exodia.
It's definitely one of these decks that can catch you by surprise. And if you have like really good luck, or if you're just playing the best deck of all time, which is Hard the Underdog Turbo,
let's go.
You're definitely going to win. And Yugi said it himself, his grandpa's deck had no pathetic cards, as perfectly shown because that deck had the likes of Beaver Warrior and Feral Imp. So yeah, Exodia, best deck, let's go.
We have Guardians, played by, what was his name, like Raphael, I think his name was, in the fourth season of the original series.
Yeah, I never really got
good.
too far with that, to be honest with you.
They're not good.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it.
They focus on like having a bunch of equip spells and making sure monsters don't go to grave or some shit like that. They're not good. Okay. They're kind of cool, but they're not great. And you know, it was from the arc of the anime that was like not too interesting, like the Orichalcos arc. You know, it's alright. It's better than Red Eyes. But yeah, not much better than that. Okay, Legendary Fisherman.
Okay.
We can count this as Umi as well, like Umi control, all that type of shit. Because of that, it goes pretty high up. Because, you know, if we're counting Legendary Fisherman, we kind of got to count Umi, because we're counting it as a Mako Tsunami deck, right?
Okay.
So, because, you know how good Umi control is.
Yeah, I've lost to it loads of times. I tell you, if this was just the Fisherman shit, I would put that straight in the third.
If this was Legendary Fisherman 1, 2, and 3, then no, this would be fucking awful. But if we're counting Umi in it, then it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, just because I lost to Umi control so many times, I respect the fuck out of the guy who plays Umi control Sky Striker. I can respect it. I'll agree where it is. But please, for the love of God, put Gate Guardian further down.
Okay, fine. We're not as bad as Red Eyes.
No, nothing is.
Okay, Dark Magician Girl, let's fucking go.
She's iconic. She's an icon. She is the moment. I think there will be a time in the future where we look back at the great female icons that define pop culture, like Marilyn Monroe, Princess Diana, and Dark Magician Girl. They're the top like female empowerment women I see. And just after seeing the Barbie movie twice in cinema, it makes me just respect the fuck out of Yu-Gi-Oh! For breaking down the boundaries of women empowerment. So To Dark Magician Girl, I salute you.
Sadly, the archetype sucks.
Yeah, it sucks ass. It's fucking horrible.
However, it's very based, and it's Dark Magician Girl. Honestly, the top tier.
Top tier.
Like, how come? Like, come on, who's gonna argue with us? If you want to argue, go down to the comments. Help boost us in the algorithm, please. Okay.
Okay, the only thing that can like face off Dark Magician Girl is Blue Eyes.
Blue Eyes White Dragon, let's fucking go. This deck, again, it sucks ass, but who gives a shit? It is the fucking one of the coolest anime decks ever.
Come on, dude, it's not that bad.
It's alright. But yeah, it's, it got some decent support. It has some really good fusions. Tyrant Dragon's pretty decent. True Light is not bad. The Ultimate Fusion, Ultimate Fusion is pretty good. The fact that all the Blue Eyes are level 8 means you can go into like rank plays, which is, better than Dark Magician can do. It's fucking Blue Eyes. Like, what else are you gonna say? It's just fucking the coolest deck from the anime. Because Kaiba played it.
And screw the rules, Kaiba has money.
Exactly. Alright, Kuriboh, of course. You know what? Kuriboh's the best.
Ooh, controversial.
A little bit
putting it before Dark Magician Girl, but I can respect it.
Like, the fact that they gave Kuriboh a bunch of fucking cards. Kuriboh probably has more cards in its archetype than all these fucking decks combined. It's like, there's just so many different types of Kuriboh. It's so awesome. He can fit in any deck. He's the OG hand trap.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
Name a duel that Yugi lost where he played Kuriboh, because I can't think of anyone.
You can't name one because when Kuriboh's got your back, you're in for a good one.
Okay, we have the Seal of Orichalcos. This is not an archetype. This is like 4 cards in the TCG. There's the Seal of Orichalcos, then there's like Divine Serpent Ge, and then there's like the big golem dude. And that's about it. So it doesn't really count. I know in the anime there's a bunch of cards that are like broken as fuck, but they never made them into real cards. However, the actual Seal of Orichalcos can take your soul if you lose the duel, so they couldn't put that into the real game. But yeah, it's like hardly a deck.
I put it in third-rate duelist. Fuck that shit.
Can't forget this tier existence, to be honest. But yeah, and I think one that can even fucking match it is Masked Beast. They suck. They're so bad. They're kind of cool in the Speed Duel Battle City box because they have a Masked Beast deck, and it's okay. It's decent. But like, there's no support. It's funny because they gave Ishizu a lot of like kind of modern support, but I feel like they should give Masked Beast some support because they kind of deserve it. They're all Battle City archetypes. Justice for the Masked Beast, Okay, zombies. So I'm kind of just putting like zombies as kind of an archetype, just because Bonds played them, whatever the fuck his name is. Zombies are good.
Zombies are really good, and they got a bunch of like cool support as well with Zombie World, which is a great floodgate in itself, especially in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! But zombies had like was a real good deck in Goat format, and there's just a lot of recursion with zombies as well. I feel like, of course, it's graveyard heavy deck. It's probably like the OG graveyard focused deck, which you gotta respect. But yeah, I say zombies fucking walked so that Shadows could run, so I full on respect zombies as a really competent deck. And there's still zombie decks to this day, like vampire decks. People just call them like the generic archetypal deck. Zombies is one of them. So definitely, it's no monster, it's a god. It's a fucking zombie.
Thing is, the best Red Eyes cards are zombie cards.
Yeah, that's what's pretty fucking funny.
Fucking insane. Alright, Golden Castle of Stromberg. This is essentially, there's like, 3 cards in the archetype, like Hextrude, this, the guy in the plane. But this is like Grenmaju.
Yeah, fuck that.
This is cringe. This is hella fucking cringe. Don't play this, please. Grenmaju is cringe. We're the Egyptian fucking gods. Okay, so he's iconic. He's Obelisk the Tormentor. Now, out of the 3 Egyptian gods, his support is probably the worst, sadly. So he's probably the best of the 3 Egyptian gods. He can't be targeted by card effects. 4k attack. He's just fucking awesome. His support is pretty bad though. It kind of just plays into his, already good strengths about like destroying monsters and shit like that. Doesn't really give him protection or anything. There's no real easy way to get him out, unlike the Winged Dragon of Ra. But you know, he's fucking iconic. He's Obelisk the Tormentor, Kaiba's god card. He has to go up here. Slifer is better in a way because, you know, he has he's kind of a mini Floodgate, because, you know, he destroys monsters with 2,000 or less attack on the field, which is pretty good. But, you know, in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! You can special summon stuff in defense mode and it doesn't affect them. Also, we can gain like a bunch of attack, but again, if you're summoning him, you're not going to have many cards in your hand to boost his attack. So he's alright though. He has a little bit better support. He has like he has a trap card that can let you draw 6, which is fucking hilarious. And he also has a bunch of other good like trap card support and just, you know, better support in general than Obelisk. However, the king of the Egyptian gods, in terms of playability, it's Ra, because he has so many support cards, but he's the least cool out of all of them.
Yeah, I don't, honestly though, I put Ra a bit further up. I put him above Dark Magician just because Ra has some really good like generic shit too. Ra has Sphere Mode, which a lot of people are just fucking main decking right now.
Yeah.
And I always associate Sphere Mode with Winged Dragon of Ra just because I think it's a Ra card basically.
Yeah.
And the fact that people still play that to this day is still pretty fucking good. Yeah, I think Ra is probably overall, his deck is the most playable out of all these guys. And I don't know if there's much that we could really say about it, because I've never really experienced the deck too much myself. But I do like the idea of Winged Dragon of Ra getting your life points into his attack, which puts you down to 100, which does put you at like a fragile state in the duel. But when you're bringing out Ra, his attack is usually so fucking high that you're planning on winning that turn anyways, which is very anime-like. So I definitely think Winged Dragon of Ra deserves to be really high up on this tier.
In combination with Spooky Dogwood, you can get up to fucking massive attack.
Exactly.
Fucking insane. Alright, Magnet Warriors. Somehow, this is actually a deck. Like, there are actual modern support cards. As a deck, it's better than Jinzo.
Is it actually?
But yeah, they're basically Earth machines, so you know they have like, you can, you know, run generic Earth machine support. But you know, they have like a proper boss monster, they have like a game plan. On Master Duel, you have Block Dragon, which can fucking help a lot. But yeah, like, they actually kind of work, which is fucking insane. Not much else to say, because they do suck.
Yeah, they suck ass, but you know.
But, you know, they're better than the Jinzo archetype, even though Jinzo's probably better than all the Magnet Warriors combined. But still. Buster fucking Blader. Okay. I think he belongs at the bottom of Screw the Rules, just because, like, okay, first of all, I love Buster Blader. Buster Blader is fucking awesome. He's a dragon killer. His support, like his modern support, is actually probably some of the best support an anime deck could get. It's actually such a competent fucking strategy, like the Buster Blader deck is.
Basically his combo brings out a floodgate that like kind of turns all of your opponent's monsters into dragons, which will get their effects negated and they'll be switched to defense mode because of your board itself. In terms of like playability and stuff like that, this is definitely a really good deck. But in terms of iconicness, Buster Blader isn't as iconic as the likes of Exodia or Dark Magician or Blue Eyes, so it'll go low on the top tier. But in terms of an actual playable deck, that's what gets it really high on this list.
Okay, I don't know why I put in Barrel fucking Dragon.
Why? I don't know either.
Okay, let's just call it Dark Machines.
Yes, okay.
Because there is a card, Heavy Metal Raiders, which is kind of like, you know, supposed to work with Barrel Dragon. And, you know, Barrel Dragon has other things like the Twin Barrel Dragon and some other kind of Barrel Dragon inspired cards. It's definitely not a fucking archetype, but, you know, it's a cool fucking card. Like, I remember seeing this in the fucking original anime. I just thought it was so fucking cool. It's Barrel Dragon. Even, like, the way his guns were censored. I think the big laser cannons look fucking cool.
And also, his fucking head makes him look a little bit like Chainsaw Man, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool, yeah. Alright, insects. So...
Third-rate duelist. Fuck the insects. Insects are so shit. The only good insect is Maxi and it's fucking banned.
Yeah, that's true. Like, you know, because I don't want to count, like, all insects, mainly just because, with zombies, a lot of, like, generic zombie support, right? We're not counting, like, Eldritch or any shit like that, but just zombies on their own are pretty good. But if you're talking, like, you know, bee troopers and shit like that, I'm not counting that with, you know, insects. I'm just counting, like, generic insect stuff. and they're just not that great. They're okay. You know, in a format where Maxi exists, yeah, that's fucking great. But you know, if Maxi doesn't exist, they're not the best. And fuck Weevil.
Fuck Weevil. Weevil is a fucking turd. He's the Cyrus of Duel Monsters.
Exactly, even worse though. Alright, XYZ Dragon Cannon.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, we can count this out with like Union, stuff like that, like
Yeah.
Union Hanger and I mean, well, you know, we're not fucking talking about, you know, ABC, because ABC is way better than XYZ. However, okay, you know, it shouldn't be that high. They're better than Magna Warriors.
Yeah, they're better than Magna
And they're
Warriors.
just cool as fuck. They're just like little fucking battle robots, you know, like Transformers, basically. They're just so fucking cool. And, you know, the boss monster's pretty damn good, especially for the time. And he's like fairly, well, you know, he's not easy to get out. But you can contact fuse him, and he's just pretty fucking cool. I don't know what else I can say. It's another one of Kaiba's decks. You know, Battle City's fucking finest. It's just fucking cool.
We stand Kaiba on this channel.
We fucking do. Alright, dinosaurs.
Okay, if we're talking about dinosaurs and Duel Monsters, they fucking sucked ass.
Well, yeah, in Duel Monsters, but at the same time, so do zombies. We're talking about modern shit here. And I think, well, yeah, first of all, dinosaurs are better than zombies. That's just a fucking fact. Yeah, dinos are fucking great. Like, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, fucking broken. Like, just think of a modern dinosaur deck. It's just all the best dinosaur cards. Because there's no fucking, like, dinosaur archetypes besides fucking Evolzar, but no one gives a shit. You know, dinosaurs are an archetype because they're dinosaur type, and they're fucking broken. Honestly, like, I think they should be up here. They're really fucking good. But you know what's not really good? Destiny board.
Yeah, it's the third rate duels. Fuck Destiny board. That's a bullshit gimmick.
I'll say one thing. At least it is a gimmick, but at least you can play it as a deck, because there are a lot of like support cards for it. There's the one field spell that like always places a Destiny board piece in your spell trap zone. And there's a bunch of other shit as well. I think there's like a Dark Necrofear card that, you know, supports the archetype. So yeah, you know, it's cool. Spells out Final or Death, depending on where you fucking live. It's epic. You can spell funny things as well, because it has L in it, so you can just put down the L card. It's fucking great. Give your opponent the L. You can give your opponent the D as well, actually. Let's go. This is part 2. We'll be talking about the GX decks this time. So let's get right into it. We have some tiers here. We have Supreme King, I'm dragging these nuts. They actually gave the support. I like the pain. And who put Red Eyes here? So let's get right into it. Let's start off with a Supreme King right off the bat. Nah, I love Roids. Now, like vehicle Roids specifically, because obviously they made Speed Roids, and Speed Roids are actually good. Roids themselves are not good, but I love them. I had a bunch of cards as a kid. I don't know why, but they're just like weird but cool. I just love them. This is not a good, like, this is not one of the cards I like. He looks ugly as shit, but I like the cards. The cards are awesome. You can tell I was a 10-year-old when I had these.
Drill Roid was pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I do think you placed it a little bit too high. I think
What do
you
you
put
mean?
it, and they actually gave this support, because they did give it like good support with the Speed Roids, I guess.
But no, because Speed Roid is not support, because all like the Roid cards say that they cannot search wind Roids, and all the Speed Roids are wind.
Okay, well still, fuck it. You know what? I think just because Cyrus plays this deck, fuck it, and they actually give the support. Even though they didn't, because fuck Speed Roids.
They kind of gave support. They gave Mixer Roid.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, from the best set, Legendary Duelist Season 1.
Yeah, how'd that go for you?
One of my favorite Roid plays was to go Submarine Roid, and then, because he can attack directly for 800, but then you go like limiter removal like 3 times, and OTK, because in my mind, the card text said, at least one errata of it said, when this card attacks directly, the attack becomes the original attack of this card. What I thought it meant was that its current attack becomes its original attack, as in, if you use Power Bond on it 3 times, it goes up to like, what, 6,400? I thought that became its current or its original attack. Which makes sense from the wording, but actually it means that it attacks directly for 800 all the time. Old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Was more funny. So, let's go Roids. Neo-Spacians. They're bad.
Yeah. I mean, Aqua Dolphin sees support.
Aqua
Sees play, I mean.
Aqua Dolphin's like legit good because you can just look at your opponent's hand. I was playing Rikas once and someone summoned this on me, and I lost all my fucking starters because, you know, Rikas have low attack monsters. But yeah, he like looks at your opponent's hand, destroy a monster with 500 less attack, so it's like legit good. Hand knowledge is legitimately a very strong thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! But he's the only good one, and he's not even that good. So yeah, like Neo-Spacians as an archetype, they just fucking suck. I mean, like, contact fusing is cool and all that, but when they have to go back to the extract at the end of the turn, that's just fucking bad.
Yeah, I feel like if they didn't have to go back into the extra at the end of the turn, it would actually be a legitimately good deck. But overall, although we praise Aqua Dolphin there, all the other cards around it isn't great. I mean, Granmo is pretty great, but did anyone ever play any of the other guys? Hummingbird, in theory, is pretty good, but no. This is definitely an anime deck in every sense of the word. It can do like some bullshit that's good in the moment of the episode, but in real life, this deck is not going to get you very far.
Alright, Arcana Force. Now, they did actually give this support. They have like one piece of support called like Arcana Reading or some shit like that. It's not good. But you know, Arcana Force is cool. They all revolve around flipping a coin. If you get heads, you get like a good effect, and if you get tails, you get a bad effect. It's such a cool idea. And Arcana Force, the world, can skip your opponent's turn. We love skipping your opponent's turn. That shit is so funny. Arcana Force is just so cool. I remember using the deck in like one of the 5Ds like games for the DS. It was just fucking awesome. Arcana Force, best deck, let's go.
Nothing makes me laugh more in Yu-Gi-Oh! Than not letting your opponent play, and not letting your opponent have a turn at all. It's just so fucking based.
It's just awesome.
So I also really appreciate that a lot of this relies on chance. So it really encourages my gambling addiction, which I'm all about right now. So I think, yeah, this is right where it needs to be. I fully support this decision.
As we all know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game purely of luck.
Exactly. There's absolutely no skill to this game whatsoever. It is purely based on the cards you draw.
We love gambling. Amazonas. This is another one where they actually gave support.
It's so fucking funny. The more I look at this, the amount of fucking cards here, I'm just like, oh shit, they did support that. Oh shit, they did support that. It's fine. Amazonas is pretty cool. They're like a battle trick deck, we'll pretty much call them.
Yeah.
I quite like battle trick decks.
Too bad they're not good.
Yeah, it's a shame that they're not great. Yeah, they're not too good. In theory, Battle Trick is pretty good, but as the kind of game evolved, the battle phase isn't really as important as much as it used to be. Just look at the amount of people that are like main decking evenly matched. It just really shows how little people care about the battle phase anymore. It's all about building big boards and breaking them down. So yeah, Amazonas, they had their time, but we're kind of past that now.
The thing is, their new support is like legitimately very good. Like, it's really good legacy support. But you know, the main gimmick of the deck is just, you know, it's too old at this point. Okay, we got, not my words, the Australian deck. This comes from the wiki. So we have Des Kangaroo, Des Koala. They fuse into whatever the fuck this guy's called again. Wizard of Oz or something like that.
Yeah, it's like it's a Battling Oz or something. Oh fuck, what's
something of Oz or something Oz. Anyway, this is Chumley's deck. It's hard to call it a deck because it's like, you know, there's no cards that really, there's no archetype here. I guess like the Dez, right? That's kind of an archetype. You have like Dez Frog.
Yeah, I suppose.
I will say one thing. The fucking Wizard of Oz, whatever the fuck his name is, one of the original Cyberstein targets for 4200 attack. At least one of the original Cyberstein targets in Duel Links. Good times. But yeah, he's fucking a big boy. Him on his own, he's pretty cool. I think he's better than Neo-Spacians.
And the fact that he is piloted by the Wizard of Oz himself, Chun-Li, I think that speaks volumes for the deck itself. So yeah, I like the pain.
Mokey Mokey, they actually gave the support.
This card's crazy.
This card's insane. His archetype has like 4 cards. Let's go. I think it also appeared in like a single episode.
But it's still fucking funny.
Yeah, they're epic. They're level 1 small dudes and they have like really fucking weird support. What's that one trap thing, special summon like a bunch?
Yeah, it's just special summons like 4 of them or some shit like that.
It's fucking awesome. And you know, they did get like new support. They got like that one Mokey Mokey in space. So Konami still cares. They'll give this shit support fucking sooner than Ancient Gears. Fucking cringe. But you know, Mokey Mokey, pretty cool.
We're all about the memes on this channel, so of course.
Speaking of which,
oh my fucking! This isn't a meme. This is facts.
This should be called Supreme Kings because these are the fucking the most Chad-like cards in the entire game, played by the most Chad character, Chaz Princeton. So like, you know, they're Ojamas. We all know what Ojamas do. They lock your opponent's zones. They're just fucking incredible. If you want to know how good they are, you should watch the Ojama tier list we did, where we go into detail on every Ojama in the game. But as we all know, Ojamas belong in the top tier and nothing will change that. Anyway, Volcanics.
I don't really care too much about Volcanics, but you have played Volcanics in our little speed duel tournament, so what was your experience?
I wish I fucking didn't. They suck. Okay, I'm sure that, like, the deck's decent, right? Because obviously we can't base it on fucking speed duel as much as I want to, because they suck in speed duel. But yeah, they got new support, which makes them like decent.
I think the new support just made them playable.
I guess so, yeah. So, you know, they have like a burn strategy. I mean, their strategy is pretty cool. You get out like the Blaze Accelerator and you burn your opponent and you do a bunch of crazy shit. You get out your boss monsters. And, you know, the guy who played it in the anime, Axel, he beat the Supreme King. Or really, he fucking tied with him and then he died. But, you know.
Spoilers.
Oh, I'm sorry I spoiled a 20-year-old fucking show.
You should be sorry.
But yeah, you know, like, the fucking, one of the guys who played him in the anime is like, you know, one of the best duelists because he beat like the Supreme King. But, you know, the deck is just kind of weird. It's like, you know, it should be cooler than it is, right? A cool fire aesthetic with these kind of demon guys. But, like, I don't know. They're just kind of weird.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan.
They actually gave this support.
However, I'm a big fan. Dark Lords. I mean, fucking Dark World. Dark Worlds are insane. They did actually give the support, but they're way better than the tier they actually gave the support. Dark World is insane. Dark World was insane before, with stuff like Dark World FTK, let's go. But, you know, with the new support from the structure decks, they're a fucking genuinely good rogue deck, and they're just really cool. Even, like, back before all this, Grapha was just such a strong card. Like, Grapha on its own made Dark Worlds playable. And, you know, in the anime, I'll be honest with you, didn't get to this point in the anime, but still, they're fucking awesome.
It speaks bounds where, like, they released a structure deck of Dark World, but they didn't really rely heavily on good reprints in the likes of hand traps and like that. They just made a genuinely good Dark World deck that you can just play and have a lot of fun with. And a lot of people just did. Like, a lot of Dark World decks you see, they don't even run hand traps. There's not really much of a point. So Dark Worlds, they definitely deserve a spot very high in this list. They're very cool, very easy to bring out some big ass boss monsters, and even like the brand new Dark World Fusion, it's played in fucking tier of all places, so it's pretty cool. I think it speaks leaps and bounds for the deck itself. So definitely Armed Dragon these nuts.
Archetype is so good, they got 2 structure decks. Fucking insane. Alright, Crystal Based. We love Crystal Based on this channel. Crystal Beasts are fucking great. They got new support in the structure deck. Again, they're really fucking good with that new support. Luke is the Crystal Beast guy.
Yeah, I fucking love Crystal Beast so much. I always like Crystal Beast because I always thought that they had like really powerful cards. Like their Searcher, Crystal Bond, I think is probably the best Searcher of any archetype in the whole game. The fact that you get advantage to your hand but also advantage to your field by getting a crystallized monster in your spell and trap card zone, and that's really important because you can pretty much pop off from there. I really like the gimmick of it fills up your back row, but once you're tactical about it, you're able to kind of work around, break boards. Also, the deck can run Shifter. There's just so many versatile ways to play it. I like to play it in a sort of XYZ kind of like OTK sort of a style, but a lot of people play the sort of conclave control, and any deck that you can play in a various amount of styles depending on your play preference, I think deserves to be very high up in just how good the deck can be in itself. So definitely very high up. I might even put it the tier above, to be honest, just because I think it's that good.
Right.
I think Rainbow Bridge to Heart is just an insane fucking card. I definitely think Crystal Beast, they're here for the long haul now, and I'm glad it's finally getting the respect it deserves.
The thing about Crystal Beast is that they're the OG Pendulum deck.
Pretty much.
Your stuff goes to the Spell Trap Guard zone. But yeah, they're insanely good as a control deck because they have a card that can search you any field spell, which can get you Necro Valley, or even Secret Village of Spellcasters if you run a Charmer. So, you know, this deck can do a fuck ton of different things. It's insane. You can play a combo, you can play a control. It's crystal based. And it's played by one of the most Sigma characters in the fucking whole series, Jesse. What's his last name? Pinkman. What the fuck is his last name? Jesse Anderson. Let's go. Alright, we have Elemental Heroes. This is a fucking Chad deck.
Oh, fuck yeah.
One of the most iconic fucking decks ever.
I think it's genuinely the most supported archetype that's in the game.
Yeah.
There's so fucking many hero decks, so many different types of heroes. Heroes has so many different ways you can play it. If you like to play sort of like traditional heroes, you want to go pure elemental, Destiny heroes, which Sean showcased in the channel before. There's even evil heroes. There's so many different ways this deck has been supported throughout the years. No one really knows how to fucking play it the one way, because you can play it so many different ways.
And the thing about, like, first of all, this is like elemental heroes. So specifically, this is Jaden's elemental heroes. And elemental heroes are really good. Like, they have so many good fusions. Obviously, Stratos, Shadow Mist, such strong cards. I think Heroes, in general, is the best anime deck. Like, out of all the decks ever in the anime, I think Heroes are the best. Just because they have so much support, they have such strong cards, and they've been around for so long. And yeah, again, definitely most supported archetype. It's funny, because it has more support than Dark Magician and Blue Eyes, probably combined. If we count like heroes, you know, like Omni heroes, every type of hero, which is fucking insane. I don't know fucking why everyone loves heroes so much, but they're fucking awesome.
Cause they're based as fuck.
I mean, I cannot argue. So yeah, I think they belong in the Supreme King tier. Next up, we have Cyber Darks.
There's a reason why we named this I Like the Pain, because Zane seemed to really do from Season 2 onwards.
But first of all, Zane's a Sigma, because even though he played the worst version of Cyber Dragons, he still won.
Yeah.
So, kind of a legend.
It shows his fucking skill. Cyber Dragons were already fucking great. I know that there's like a few good Cyber Dark cards, and yeah, they have a few cool sort of gimmicks, but overall, you cannot convince me Cyber Darks are better than Cyber Dragons. Cyber Darks are fucking dog shit. A lot of the shit doesn't even synergize with each other. You have 50% dragons and 50% machines. Just make them all fucking machines. Like, it's so goddamn annoying, because you never really get the cards you exactly want for the combo. At least with Cyber Dragons you get some consistency. So yeah, no wonder Zane liked the pain, because not only are you getting electric shock when you're losing life points, you're also getting the pain of fucking bricking with this deck every 5 fucking minutes.
Even though they got like a whole structure deck to themselves, it didn't help. Like, it made them, like, you know, the tiniest bit better. But in the end, it just made Cyber Dragons better because of the Power Bond combo with Cyber Dark Chimera. So, you know, they suck. They fucking suck. You know what doesn't suck, though? Vampires. They actually gave this deck support. Let's go.
Yeah, I really like vampires. I like the idea of like draining life points and stuff like that. I remember like I really fucking love that vampire koala. I thought that was just such a fucking cool card.
Yeah, I remember that one. That's awesome.
I really like vampires. I really need to make them at some point and play them on the channel, because I think vampires, they're just a cool classic deck. You know, like when people say, oh yeah, they play zombies, I think that they're in the same category as like just playing vampires. It's such a generic sort of archetype that you can kind of have fun with and just be creative, so I really like vampires.
It's actually like one of those archetypes that has been around since like the beginning of the game. Like, think about Kaiba with Vampire Lord. But then they just got support over time. They got support in GX, and then years and years later they just kept getting little bits of support, and up until recently they got the zombie vampire, the rank 8, which is like legit really good. They're just such a cool archetype, and they always kind of stuck to their gimmick of, you know, you pay life points and you gain life points and all that. It's fucking cool. And, you know, I'm glad they got support, and I'm glad Konami actually gives a shit about an archetype. An archetype they don't give a shit about is Cloudians.
What the fuck were they thinking? This is so stupid.
What the fuck is this thing? This doesn't look like a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah, no, it looks like really bad CGI from a kids movie in 2002.
It looks like the fucking guy from Monsters Inc. The Abominable Snowman.
Oh yeah, the Abominable Snowman. If he was rendered incorrectly, yeah. Yeah, it's just really fucking bad. I don't even know much about the fucking archetype, but I know enough to know that they're shit.
Yeah, it's played by one of the villains in GX, and, you know, I think they have an 100% lose rate. Maybe they don't, I don't fucking know. But I've only ever seen Cloudians lose. So, you know, I know they have a fan base, and I feel bad for those fans, because this deck fucking sucks. A deck that doesn't suck, though, is Orange Dragons! They did actually give the support. It's okay support. It's very cool support. The art is fucking awesome. They turned Armed Dragons into Armed Dragon Thunders, kind of going with the Chaz it up. Whatever the Japanese version of that is, like Majome Thunder, or whatever the fuck Chaz's name is in Japanese. Armed Dragons are awesome. They've always been so cool. They're just big dragons with armor. That's what Armed Dragons are. They're just fucking cool. And they're decent. They're not great, but they're decent.
Yeah, I kind of like, I always am torn between, I kind of like and I kind of don't like the ideas of, you know, monsters leveling up, like, you know, the Silent Swordsman or Silent Magician or whatever.
Yeah.
Armed Dragons are very similar, but I do think if you're playing in sort of like a nice small little format, like an early format, or even like a speed duel sort of situation, they are very cool. But overall, as a deck, it didn't really get a lot of play. Like, they really tried to sell it with Blazing Vortex, but like the deck really never went anywhere. I mean, it was cool support, but not necessarily good support. So, yeah, they definitely deserve their place, kind of like in the mid section right here.
It was played by Chaz though, so you know.
Okay, well, it was played by Chaz and it deserves to be top tier.
100%. Alright, speaking of top tier, we got the Sacred Beasts. Okay, Sacred Beasts.
Okay, yeah, try to defend this.
What do you mean? Okay, Sacred Beasts are awesome. They were played by the Season 1 main villain, and then they were played by Ubel, and they're fucking awesome. They're the better Egyptian gods. They have insane support from the structure deck, which made them a legitimately really good fucking deck. They have Fallen Paradise, which lets them draw 2. They have cards that can special summon out the Sacred Beast from the deck. They have like Floodgates. They have a fusion monster with 10k attack that cannot be destroyed. You don't take battle damage with them. This deck is insane.
It's Sacred Beast, but I can't go any further. Let's talk about Cyber Dragons.
It's Sacred Beast, actually. Cyber Dragons, let's go.
Oh, fucking top tier.
Do you think they're better than Crystal Beasts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Cyber Dragons are fucking crazy because Crystal Beasts, they need specific Crystal Beast cards in order for them to be good. Cyber Dragons can use generic machine support in order to make them really good. Like Cyber Dragons can throw in Machine Dupe, they can throw in a Clockwork Knight, and there's just loads of different ways you can play them. I like playing them pure with a tiny little Cyber Dark engine, but overall I think Cyber Dragons are very, very good. I also love the gimmick where monsters have the same name when they're in the graveyard and on the field, much like Harpie Ladies and stuff like that. I think Cyber Dragons are very, very good. And like Cyber Dragon being released put an end to GOAT format. When Cyber Dragon first came out, you knew shit was getting fucking real. So Cyber Dragons have stood the test of time, constantly getting more support, absolute fan favorite. It's definitely some Supreme King shit. Let's fucking go.
Definitely a game changer. Like, honestly, it's just an insane 2100 attack guy. You can just special summon. His deck is just amazing at breaking boards. Like, you can contact Fuse, which is one of the best ways of like destroying boards. You can contact Fuse with cards in the extra monster zone, and you can contact Fuse with machine monsters. And if you have Clockwork Knight in the field, you can just contact Fuse with everything on the field, and you just wipe the board, and your opponent can't trigger any effects if their cards leaving the field, because it's a contact Fuse. It's fucking insane. Obviously played by Zane, because he's a king, so I think it belongs in Supreme King. Cyber Angels, did they really give this support? I don't think they did.
Cyber Angel gave Drytron support. Cyber Angels, they did not get support themselves. I mean, it's cool. I like Alexis as a character.
I wonder why.
Shut the fuck up. I think, yeah, like, they're cool. I enjoyed playing with them for the speed duel thing, but overall the deck itself was just not good. It's kind of hard to explain. Benton, of course, is a great fucking card, but I don't know if you're ever going to see a pure Cyber Angel deck.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, it's also a ritual deck, which, you know, is probably one of the worst forms of a deck to be ritual focused. Even focusing on main deck boss monsters is better than focusing on rituals. So, you know, Alexis definitely got the short end of the stick with her deck. Because, you know, she's a cool character. And, you know, she's supposed to be one of the greatest duelists. But her deck sucks. And it's very sad. But, you know, maybe new support, who knows? Hopefully not, because then Drytrons might be broken again. Anyway, Ubel. Yubel actually got some fucking insane support.
Oh my, I am so excited for this support. I actually might play Yubel. I think it's so fucking cool.
It's just super poly the archetype.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why I think it's so fucking great. It's just, I always thought Yubel was pretty fucking cool. I like the idea that like throughout the entirety of GX, Yubel was always kind of like lurking in the background. It's kind of like an afterthought when like you're watching all of the first few seasons happening. You're like, Yubel is always going to constantly be there for like the grand finale. Finally just fusing herself with Jaden going into season 4. I think Yubel was always such a cool, just always such a cool card. I know like the archetype kind of stuck with Yubel, then Nightmare Incarnate, and then just kind of leveling up like that. And I really don't like the idea of monsters that destroy themselves at the end of during the end phase for a cost or whatever. But this new support I find to be very promising. I think it's going to be really cool. I really look forward to it. I'm not saying it's going to be a meta deck. It might be a cool, fun little rogue deck. I'm just really excited for it. I think this has like a cool future ahead of it. So Yubel, let's fucking go.
You know what's insane about Yubel?
What's that?
It is a level 10 fiend with 0 attack, meaning it synergizes with Sacred Beasts, using the Sacred Beast continuous fucking spell, which can special summon a 0 attack, 0 defense fiend, and it's level 10, so you can go into your rank 10s. So they're just best buds.
Yeah, you know what? Put them hand in hand. Nice. Very fucking cool.
Okay, we got the fucking Viper guy.
I think this is funny. I think it's a really funny deck. I like it just because I enjoy the gimmick of bringing out like a really big boss by like the only one mean necessary, like a trap card or whatever. I think it's pretty cool. Like when you do bring this out eventually after a lot of setup, it's cool. Has no place in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, but I think it's a cool concept, cool design.
But it's an instant win card. If you wait like 3 turns with it or some shit, you just win the duel.
Yeah, so you've got that. It's pretty much. I mean, by the time you set it up, you practically resolve Final Countdown anyways. It doesn't even fucking matter. But yeah, I like the paint on this one.
We have the best deck, no question, Ancient Gears. First of all, they look awesome. They're just big robots. They're not like Cyber Dragons. They're not like kind of cool new technology. They're old school, big, clunky motherfuckers. But they have raw power, you know? Well, the Cyber Dragons are kind of like, they're sleek, they're fast, they're like modern. Ancient Gears will just like, they're all power. They're all into one punch. And there's like, you know, their aesthetic is fucking awesome. They're played by the best character in fiction, Crowler. You know, like, they just look awesome. Their archetype is literally focused around like punching really fucking hard. They have Ancient Gear Golem, obviously, you know, 3k attack, he does piercing, your opponent can activate stuff during the battle phase. You have your fusion guys, which do the fucking same thing. You have Chaos Ancient Gear Giant even, which can just like, unaffected by spell and traps, and then it can attack all your opponent's monsters, does piercing, your opponent can activate monster effects from the battle phase. This is the better version of Amazonas. You know, this is like the battle phase focus, big, beefy boys. They're just the best fucking deck. What can I say?
I think we have a new simp short.
We fucking do. Ancient Gear's best deck, let's go.
But
Crowler.
Show some support to you, Ojamas. Show some love. You gotta admit. You gotta admit.
It pains me, but yes, Ojama's based. Destiny Heroes. Okay, Destiny Heroes, like, yeah, they got support with DPE actually. Okay, that's pretty good. Honestly, yeah, because of DPE, literally, I think they're like the top of the actually got support.
I think they're better than Dark Worlds, to be honest, because Plasma is a fucking hell of a card.
Yeah, that's true. Like, because the thing is, right, like, you don't have Destiny Heroes without like Elemental Heroes and all that. But you know, the Destiny Hero cards on their own are very strong. Like Dark Angel, Plasma, Denier, Malicious, fucking even back in the old days with Diamond Dude and Destiny Draw. Like, Destiny Heroes are actually insane.
No matter what variation of hero you're playing, Malicious is always there. And even a lot of decks just throw in Malicious. Of course, I constantly say this because I don't know why I always have to end up saying this. Malicious is also played in some tier decks. That's what makes it fucking crazy. Tier Element, they have ways to take advantage of Malicious too. So I think that really speaks volumes for how good some of these Destiny Hero cards are. I really think Plasma is very, very good. He's one of these boss monsters that if you bring out, yeah, he's a problem, but not overly too crazy in order to kind of get rid of. So I think it's a nice, fair deck. I don't mind playing against Destiny Heroes. They're fun to play with. They're fun to play against. Are they the greatest? I think not, just because a pure Destiny hero build, they still need their elemental heroes, whereas elemental heroes can kind of go on their own. But they have some of the most powerful fusions, like DPE, as you said already. So I think, yeah, they definitely deserve a spot really high in this list. Armed Dragon these nuts is a good spot for them.
We have the Elemental Dragon guys. It's played by like Bastion.
Yeah, Bastion's a shit character anyway, so fuck him. So yeah, I like the pain here.
They did give it kind of some support, but the deck fucking sucks. It's hardly a deck. Like, I don't know what to say about it. This deck fucking sucks. That's all. Dinosaurs
are great. Holy
Dinosaurs
fuck.
are fucking awesome. So this is where we get like actual kind of good dinosaur cards like Conductor Tyranno and all that. But you know, we're talking about modern day dinosaur support, and dinosaurs are one of the best decks in the game. Not really, but you know, they're a fucking awesome deck. You have Ultimate Conductor Tyranno being a fucking insanely good boss monster since it came out in the structure deck. Dinosaurs are just fucking awesome. They're used by the fucking, what's his name, Hazelberry?
Yeah.
And, you know, he's like the Chad version of Rex. You know, he plays actual based dinosaurs. He's also a homie, you know, he sticks by Jaden no matter what. He turns into a dinosaur, if I recall correctly.
In space.
Exactly. He's a fucking legend.
Dudes are such a fucking chat. I really like, I never really liked dinosaurs because I always kind of hated the idea of like in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just
real life creatures.
Yeah, just real life creatures, because I always thought it was weird because I was like spellcasters, dragons, fucking big ass machines, fucking volcano people, fucking dinosaurs. But yeah, they really come leaps and bounds, and I think they're really fucking cool, and they have just like such good fucking support as well. So yeah, they're definitely very high on this list.
Okay, we have evil heroes. There's three good evil hero cards. We have Malicious Bane, we have Dark Calling, and we have Adusted Gold. Those are the three best evil hero cards, and that's about it.
Yeah, I'll put it next to Volcanics.
Yeah.
Like a bit higher because Volcanics, fuck them. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You would not play any other evil heroes.
Oh, actually, there's a level 2 evil hero that people play in Sprites.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Fuck that though. Evil heroes, they're fine. You'd only ever run the Malicious Bane package with Adusted Gold, so that's pretty much it. They're
cool
not great.
though. They're cool looking.
They're cool looking.
The fusions are pretty cool. Like you know, in the anime and all that. Like they look cool. There's a cool design. I like the idea of, you know, evil heroes because Jaden's turn all evil. But you know, they fucking suck.
Yeah, they like all of them. They can only be brought out by Dark Calling or Dark Fusion. You can't bring them out with Polymerization or anything like that, which fucking sucks. So yeah, they're just, I don't know. They're like diet heroes. Like, yeah, you'll take them if there's no other heroes, but you know, they're okay.
Neos. So we're talking. Okay, they actually did get support. Pretty decent support actually. Neos is just like, it's weird because it's definitely a cut between elemental heroes and Neo-Spacians, right? Like that's literally what it is. It's okay. The new support is decent. They actually have that one card that can lock you out of, like, you know, activating cards for the rest of the turn, which is fucking bullshit. We love cards like that. Neos itself is iconic. He's fucking one of like Jaden's better boss monsters. They're just decent, you know. Like they got decent support, but they're nothing crazy. They kind of suck, but they're alright. The deck functions mainly because it's an elemental hero. But yeah, the concept's alright.
One thing I would say I don't like about Neos is that he kind of took the shine away from Flame Wingman.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, he is a sexy boy, so I will forgive him on all that. Yeah, they actually gave him support, and it was pretty decent, but I don't know. Neos... he kind of needs his heroes in order to be good. Neo-Spacians aren't really that great. They kind of hold him back a little bit. But still, just looking at Neos himself, he just exudes such Chad energy, you can't help but say smash.
You should put him on a playmat.
Exactly.
Alright, we have Fossils, played by the Jim Crocodile fucking Cook, whatever the fuck his name is. They're cool. Like, they got support at some point. They're cool. I'd say probably, as a deck, they're probably like around here.
I'll take your word for that. I don't really care too much about Fossils. I'm not really too sure about them.
They look very cool. The guy who played them as a crocodile, that's kind of crazy. He's Australian, if you couldn't tell. The fucking GX anime is not stereotypical at all. It's a cool deck, I like the idea of kind of fossil guys. Funnily enough, they're mostly played in like Dogmatica because they have that one card that you can send from your extra deck to the grave and it has like an effect to like pop a card or some shit like that. That's the only place you're going to see it. But if they get new support, they're going to be really fucking cool. And finally, they're not good.
Yeah, Advanced Crystal Beast. I was so disappointed with this. Cause I think it was announced at roughly around the same time the Crystal Beast structure deck was announced. They also announced Advanced Crystal Beast, which we'll be getting a lot later. And after seeing how good the structure deck was, and we're thinking, oh fuck, how good are these Advanced Crystal Beasts gonna be? Because we built them up for so long. They first appeared in the GX anime the last season when Jesse is taken over by Ubel and possessed, and we see, oh, these are evil Crystal Beasts. These guys mean fucking business. They're very reminiscent to the original ones, but they're different. They have different effects. They're more powerful. They're darker, more gritty. And I was expecting some really crazy shit. I was actually expecting the Advanced Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus to probably be a very powerful card that might even make a mainstay into all Crystal Beast builds. But no, they're such a fucking letdown. They were so bad. I can't even fucking get into how disappointed I was. I went on tangents for ages before the actual good Crystal Beast support came, saying the only way to save Crystal Beast is to make the Advanced Crystal Beast archetype a really good one that could kind of mesh with the Crystal Beasts themselves. But we were kind of promised that, but we didn't get it. We just had to rely on actual good Crystal Beast support themselves to make it good. Advanced Crystal Beast was the biggest fucking letdown ever, and I will never forgive you for that.
I think the lesson is, if your archetype goes evil, it's gonna suck fucking dick. That's just how it is.
Evil never wins.
That's the See, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is such a great story about good versus evil, and good like Ojamas and evil like Cyberdarks, Crystal Beasts, and Evil Heroes. They all suck, but the good decks, Ojamas, Ancient Gears, Heroes, Cyber Dragons, Crystal Beasts, they're all good. So it's crazy, isn't it?
Remain pure.
By ranking the best 5Ds decks. So without further ado, let's get into it. We have some tiers here. We have 5Ds nuts, Damage Step C moment, Rev It Up, Loki kinda trash, and Unfortunate Fairies. So let's begin with a decent one. We have Stardust Dragon. So we're differentiating between Stardust and Synchrons because they are, pretty different. Obviously, Synchrons are more good for generic Synchro stuff, whereas Stardust Dragon is, has a lot of very specific Stardust support. As the Synchro guy, what do you think?
I think it deserves to be a little bit higher, maybe Damage Step C moments, just because not only does Stardust Dragon have a bunch of support for its own archetype, but also the fact that it's also generic enough to go into other decks as well. For example, Axel Stardust Dragon that was only released recently in Maze is an amazing card, able to be put in loads of different decks. It's an easy way to go into Barone as well. So I think Stardust is really, really good. I would put it definitely where it is right now. Don't think it's top tier, but still very high.
It's also very iconic. We can't put the main character's deck in any lower than the second best tier, I think.
Exactly. And by the way, Stardust is a really good card in itself.
Yeah, that's true. It defined its format,
Yeah, it's a staple in Edison decks, so.
It's pretty cool how the first main Synchro card that comes out when Synchros come out is one of the staples. Because you usually see Power Creep coming in where the first Link card that came out is not good. But the first Synchro card that came out was pretty good up until XYZ came out. So Stardust Dragon, pretty cool. Next up, though, we got the fucking best deck. Red Dragon Archfiend. I'd say it's probably better than Stardust Dragon.
In terms of a deck, yes, probably. In terms of actual monsters, I wouldn't say so, but we're ranking on decks here, so yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so like obviously the structure deck came out and made this deck actually playable. It has gotten some tops. It has good synergy with a lot of decks like Bestials, which is really cool. Just in terms of like coolness, it's such a cool deck, and I'm glad the deck kind of stuck to its like original idea of being just really strong, really powerful, breaks boards, doesn't really set up a bunch of negates. It's all offense, which is very Jack Atlas.
Yeah, big beatdown.
Yeah, and just, it's just a cool card. Even Red Dragon Archfiend on its own, another great Edison card, another great card of its time. And in the anime, obviously Jack Atlas, Giga Chad, he deserves to be next to his homie. Next up we have Black Rose Dragon, or like the Rose Dragon cards. They're alright. I think they're really cool. Obviously Black Rose is probably the best synchro card out of the 5Ds era, just because it's actually insane.
Yeah, it's great. To have a complete board wipe is really, really good. And also, much like Stardust, an absolute staple for Edison format. So Black Rose Dragon is a definite must. In terms of the deck around it though, I don't know if we can say much. It's definitely a cool, fun deck to play. I think it has a lot of potential, but I don't know if it is as good as the other two that we just talked about there.
It was top tier in Duel Links though, that was great.
Oh, hell yeah, this is the Duel Links channel now.
And obviously, Akiza, best girl from 5Ds.
That is true, that is very true.
But we'll put her here for now. Next up we have the best deck in the game, Morphtronics, or Power Tool, but obviously the guy who used it used Morphtronics to go into Power Tool Dragon. Yeah, this thing sucks. The thing is, like, it's not Morphtronics, it's just Power Tool, and Power Tool has like two cards, has Power Tool Dragon and Power Tool Braver Dragon. They're pretty cool because they work around equip cards, which, it's one of those mechanics where it's very hit or miss. It's either like the best thing in the game or really shit.
Look, Power Tool Dragon is a great monster. It was played in Noble Knights and even some Infer Noble Knights deck. But again, we're looking at this like as the deck around it, basically the archetype around it. It's not really good. It synergizes well with decks that rely on equip spells, but in terms of its own sort of standing deck, I don't know if it's even in Rev It Up. It might be in low-key kind of trash.
Yeah, I think you're right. But hey, it's an art machine.
That's true. Okay, just for that, put him up.
Let's go. Okay, next up we have Ancient Fairy Dragon. The card alone is like pretty good, and it's more relevant now than it has been in a while. And it's more relevant now than just these cards on their own. Came off the ban list, has a pretty strong effect.
It's errata though, so I don't know if it's as good as Black Rose, to be quite honest with you.
That's very fair, yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking like pre-errata, great, but we're also thinking like decks now.
And this is not really a deck at all.
Yeah, it's not really a deck at all. I mean, yeah, it's a cool card. It was better back in the day, but just having its errata, and it's not exactly a staple of Edison or anything like that, I don't think it's as good as the Black Rose Dragon, but still great card though.
Now here we go. Here, I mean, this should be a C moment, but it's like way better.
It is way better. It is, although Black Wings will always forever be a C moment in their hearts, they have surpassed and really proved that they still have strong contention even in today's meta, because Blackwing's got a whole lot of support in Darkwing Blast, and although Blackwing decks nowadays look absolutely nothing like they did back in Edison format, it's still Blackwings at heart. We love them. They're top tier.
Okay, now we have like a real deck. We have Synchrons. Synchrons are very good. Synchrons are just probably one of the best like generic synchro decks. They can just do crazy stuff because it really only restricts you into synchros. So it's just a toolbox for any good synchro cards. And there's a lot of very good synchro cards. Yeah, Synchrons are really cool.
I put up higher, to be honest with you, just considering the amount of things you can do with this deck. What I really like about the deck is, although the core really stays the same no matter what, you can really be experimental with your extra deck, in the sense that if you want to go down the Crimson Dragon route, you might be adding a bunch of really powerful synchro 12s or whatever. There's just so many different ways you can play the deck. You can play control, you can play it beatdown, you can do anything with the deck, and I really like the versatility of it for that. So I think it's definitely up there. I don't know if it's as good as Blackwings. It can still do a lot of cool stuff, but I think Blackwings are just a little bit better. I think the thing that makes Synchrons so good is that they can use a lot of generic stuff. The deck itself, using Synchrons, they're not the best, but their generic stuff that they can add is what makes it really good. So I think it deserves to be in 5B's nuts probably.
Next up, Earthbound Immortals, a very topical pick because they just got support in the new Maze set. I think they're going to be decent. I think they're better than just like Stardust on its own, obviously. I think they're going to be alright. I think they're going to be pretty cool. The new spell card, which allows them to fusion and synchro at the same time, that's pretty crazy. The new fusions and synchros are actually very strong. Even back in the day, if you play by playground rules and your opponent just normal summons an Earthbound Immortal, you can't kill it and it can just attack you directly. And you know, this is a subjective tier list, so that means it goes pretty high up. I think they're pretty cool. I think they're pretty like intimidating monsters. Obviously, they were not very good before, and they're only like okay now. They're not like meta, but they're very cool. Like, I'm glad the support actually made them like a playable deck, gave them some very unique like stuff. Because I think they deserve it. They're a really cool like kind of villain archetype. So yeah, I think that's fair to keep them here. Here's a bad deck. Here's a low-key trash deck, Ally of Justice.
Okay, Catastra's great. Look,
Catastra's
we can't
good.
deny that. Catastra is a staple of Edison decks, which I know we're saying a lot, but this is genuinely a really, really good card. The deck around it just isn't too good, I'm afraid. Yeah, like the funny thing is, I don't even think Catastra is like the main like boss of their deck. It just so happens to be one of their lower ranking ones that ends up being really good. It's kind of like reminds me of TG Hyper Librarian. TG Hyper Librarian is not the boss monster of the deck. It was just a really, really good card to saw play elsewhere. The same can be said for Catastra. Catastra's a great card. Deck around just not so good.
I think they have one other good card. It's like it's a hand trap that can either banish like 2 lights or 2 darks from your opponent's grave. I think it's 2 lights, so it was really good in Drytron format. So you just banish your opponent's lights in the grave as a quick effect from your hand. But you know that time is come and gone, and Ally of Justice is not very good. But you know how it is. Morphtronics.
It's morphin' time.
Let's go. Okay, I love Morphtronics. Their aesthetic, their design is just so funny because they're just like appliances come to life. They have some of the dumbest mechanics because like they can always just do some dumb stuff. They're always part of some like bullshit. As we know, Morphtronic FTK with Telephon, that's some funny stuff right there. Other than that, they're not very good. But you know, they're better than Power Tool, and they're cool, they're charming, you know, they're a nice deck, you know. We like to see Morphtronics. They're wholesome, you know.
We have fun.
Exactly. Fortune Ladies, because Fortune Fairies are different. They're okay. They're better than Ally of Justice. They actually have some like unique stuff, right? They like level modulate. They gain effects based on their level. They can synchro. Their synchro monster is pretty good, and they also can like draw a million cards. I was on the back end of this once where my opponent just drew like 10 cards against me, so that was pretty tough.
Man, Max C without Max C'ing.
Honestly, like, so who needs Max C? It's a cool deck. I like the idea of it. It has some really cool cards, but you know they have not stood the test of time, and even back then, I don't think they were that good. We have Fleur.
Keep forgetting this is an archetype.
Yeah, so just for like Barone on its own, I think it deserves to be pretty high up. The archetype is bad, but Barone the Fleur is like the best card in the game. It's one of the best. It's probably the best synchro card in the game.
Yeah, when you see the amount of like 1-card combos that can get into Barone, it's absolutely crazy. The fact that like they still have a monster that's literally played in almost every single deck is insane. Archetype though, still not good, so do you really think it should be better than Earthbound Immortals?
Probably not.
Yeah, so let's put it down for that then.
Maybe about here.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's probably not as good as Stardust as well.
Yeah, Barone like picks it up a lot, but not too much.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Reactors. They have some very cool cards, but this is not a deck. It was a deck in the anime, but it's just not a deck in real life. They have like 3 cards, and one of the cards doesn't even work with the archetype. They have like Big Flat Top or whatever the fuck it's called. It's supposed to special summon this dude from your like deck or something, or your hand or grave or whatever, but just because of like the mechanics of the game, it doesn't work, which is very funny. But this guy is super cool. I had a copy of him when I was younger, and he's like impossible to summon unless you have like the other reactor cards. But you know, he's 3k and he like burns and he can pop cards and stuff like that. He's really cool. I love the design of all these cards because they're just big kind of like robot, like tank aircraft carrier things. But they're very bad, very fucking bad. But they're super cool, so you know that's why they're not in bottom tier. Next up, we have Mech Lords. They're okay. I Okay, let's be honest, they're probably better than Wolftronics.
How dare you?
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, they're alright. So yeah, Mech Lords, you know, they're a cool archetype. They're very anti-synchro. But we've gone through many synchro formats and they're just not good enough. Even as an anti-synchro deck, they're not very good at countering synchros. They're cool. They're a cool archetype. They look very cool. They were like the main villains archetype in the anime. But they're just not that good. Maybe at a time, maybe at one point they were alright. But the new support they even got is just not very good. But you know, they're cool. Their design's very cool, so we'll give them that.
If there ever comes a format where synchros are like top tier meta again, maybe this deck might shine, but for the time being, definitely not.
We have Benson. We have Iron Chain. This deck was used by like one guy in the anime, and it can bring out like one decent synchro guy. But it's not really a deck. It has like maybe 3 cards, and I don't think half of them are in the actual game. So yeah, I like this dude though. He's pretty cool. And his synchro is like not bad. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of him because I don't like how he kept yelling at Mordecai and Rigby.
That was pretty cringe.
That was pretty cringe of him. But overall, deck sucks.
Time Lords. Okay, we know Time Lords.
Oh my god. The amount of times people play this on goddamn Nexus, it is so goddamn annoying.
How about Master Duel, man? People on Master Duel play this deck all the time. It's so bad.
Dude, I've been playing Nexus longer than Master Duel. This is just so bad. I know the suffering. It is horrendous. Unless if your deck has like an obvious like negate, like inbuilt monster negate, you're not getting over these things. They're so annoying. Sure, they go back into the deck during, I think it's your standby phase or whatever the hell.
I think it's their standby phase, so like your turn ends and then they go to their turn and then it goes away and then you just normal summon another one.
Yeah, it's so goddamn stupid and annoying. Yeah, I just don't like it. It kind of reminds me of a Grand Maju type deck. It doesn't really take a whole lot of skill to play. It's just one of these decks that can win, but when you do win with them, do you really feel proud?
I hope you don't. Alright, next up, Fortune Fairies. They're pretty bad, but at least there is like a bunch of cards compared to Iron Chain.
Yeah, I quite like the design because I pulled a lot of it in it was in Shadows of Valhalla. I like them for that. They're cool looking.
Yeah, that's about it. Next up, this is a weird one. Noble Knights. So, in the context of the anime, this is just like the Synchrons to the Fleur deck. Like what Synchrons are to Stardust is what the Noble Knight is to Fleur. It's not like modern Noble Knights, so I don't even know if we should like say, oh, like Noble Knights now are like really good. I really don't know, because obviously no one plays this card in actual Noble Knights. So yeah, it's like, it's whatever, you know.
Yeah, well here's the thing, what we'll say is, Noble Knights still suck. Infer Noble Knights are great. These are Noble Knights, they suck.
I guess that's fair. Alright, TG. TG is a weird one, right? Because TG obviously has some very powerful cards like Hyper Librarian, stuff like that. They even got new support, which is supposed to be very crazy, but I'm pretty sure that new support has come out and I've not heard a single thing about TGs.
I was kind of hyped for it a little bit because I've seen some of them can do some crazy stuff. I think it should be up there. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for them. But yeah, just the fact that they still have one of their guys limited, I think is crazy. So I think high rev it up is where they belong.
Next up, Infernity, a fan favorite. Everyone loves some Infernity. Maybe like here? Nah, probably here.
Yeah, it would be better than Earthbound Immortals, I'm pretty sure.
Infernity is pretty good. Obviously, everyone loves spamming Trishula. Everyone loves having no hand. It's a very cool gimmick. Obviously, some crazy like combos you can do with it, like endless combos. It's a very cool deck. Obviously, power crept in the modern day. Infernity Archfiend was unlimited recently, so the deck might come back. Who knows? But yeah, it's a cool fan favorite deck. It had its time in the sun. I'm sure this is a very divisive deck because the people who play it seem to love it. The people who play it against it seem to hate it. But as a deck, it's pretty cool. Next up, we have the Aesir, like, you know, god deck.
The Nordic gods.
Yeah, Nordic gods. Pretty good. Probably better than these guys. Yeah, they have like, they've got a lot of support over the years. Their like main boss monsters were like pretty good enough to where Konami just basically gave them support to get them out. They even have a new trap card, which like basically is a skill drain, which is pretty insane.
The deck main monsters are goats. That means they are the GOAT.
That is true, okay.
Therefore, it is the greatest deck of all time.
I think you're 100% right.
That's just common logic.
Honestly, like, I can't argue.
Yeah.
Malefics are really cool, but they're not very good.
Yeah, I think Malefic in theory is pretty cool. I like the idea of bringing back like older monsters in order to kind of give them a new spin on things. Like, it gives you a reason to run Blue Eyes, it gives you a reason to run Cyber End Dragon and stuff like that. Having said that though, you need a good bit of setup in order to pull this deck off, and even when you do, there's lack of protection for them to actually be like towers or anything like that. So the deck is easily beatable. It is not the greatest deck. It is a fun deck. I don't think it ever did anything crazy when it came out. It probably just remains a fun gimmick that you can play, but not necessarily a really good deck.
I thought it was very cool though that you can just like banish cards from your extra deck to summon the corresponding Malefic monster, which is really cool. So, you know, if you have Malefic Cyber End in your hand, you just banish Cyber End from your extra deck to summon it, which is, you know, a free 4k guy. Only problem is you need to have a field spell on field, otherwise it dies. So it still is very cool. I do really appreciate the archetype, the design. It's just a really awesome deck. Obviously in the best Yu-Gi-Oh movie, Bonds Beyond Time. It took 3 main characters to beat this deck, so, you know, must be pretty good, right? And then next up, to end it all off, we have whatever the fuck this is.
Oh, it's a Reptilia thing?
Yeah, like Reptilia or whatever.
Yeah.
Bad. We're going to be talking about the best Zexal decks. So Zexal surprisingly doesn't have as many decks as I would have thought. Probably the fewest decks of any anime series, but there are some bangers in here, so let's get right into it. We have a few tiers here. We have
the GOAT, Not a Gimmick, I Like Trains, Utopia Beyond Awful, and Halfway to Never Play This Deck.
So let's get right into it. Let's start off with Yuma's main deck, the face of Zexal. We have Utopia.
I would rank this very high, probably in the high end of the second tier of Not a Gimmick.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
I think it's a very, very good deck. I think Utopia has a lot of good support. Utopia itself is just a really good generic rank 4 as well that you can use in a lot of decks. And not only that, it has good synergy that you can use not only Utopia himself, but just a few decks to use some other Utopia monsters. Like Utopia Double, of course, is a really, really good OTK package that a lot of rank 4 toolboxes can use. Utopia itself is really, really good. They have a really cool continuous spell that you can pay 500 for each time you go into a Utopia monster and also draw a card. I think that's just absolutely crazy. Definitely Utopia is a really, really good build.
In modern Utopia decks, we have number 99 Utopia Dragnar, or whatever it's called. It's really good because it just summons any like XZs from your deck between numbers 1 and number 100. So it's very, very good. You can just summon a Hope Harbinger very easily. One of the main kind of XZ's toolboxes. Some of the other Utopia cards are just very good because you have like the Utopia Leo cards, which they just kind of get negates on your guys. Even Utopic Draco Future is technically a Utopia card, and that's a fantastic card in the game. So yeah, Utopia, definitely a pretty good deck, especially for Zexal standards. I think it belongs in Not a Gimmick. Next up we have Galaxy Eyes. We love Galaxy Eyes, guys. It's so good. Okay.
Honestly, I put it in the mid tier and I Like Trains because Galaxy Eyes, although it's very fun, it is prone massively to bricking. A lot like Blue Eye. It has a lot of potential. The support that it constantly gets seems plentiful. However, it doesn't really solve the main problems of the decks where you are bricking quite an awful lot. The deck needs a lot of steam in order for it to get going. I do feel like a good load of the cards are genuinely good, but something about just meshing them all together doesn't really work in the same way one would hope it does. I think it's still a really cool archetype and I do really like them, but in terms of how they're shaping up against the rest of the decks here, I think it kind of is a bit lackluster and just falls a little bit flat or a little bit behind some of the other decks we have.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of like good generic cards, but as a whole the deck is not like fantastic at using them. The Photon cards are pretty cool, like they're a good engine. It's more explosive than Blue Eyes, but probably even more bricky, so it's alright. Galaxy Eyes are cool, and I guess that's all that matters. Next we have Sharks. Sharks are genuinely very, very good. Sharks have like seen some tops lately. They're not a bad deck at all. They've gotten so much support from when they came out. If we're talking about kind of like anime Sharks, it kind of always revolves around like the rank 3 and some other decent Shark cards. But Sharks have just evolved so much. We have Cards like Dream Shark, cards like Abyss Shark. There's just so many good shark cards. It's just such a crazy deck. There are so many good like water Xyzs that are just really strong. So yeah, probably the deck from Zexal that aged the best. Yeah, I think it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think sharks definitely came a long ways from when they were first introduced. I think they're really cool. As you already mentioned, Abyss Shark, of course, is a really good card that you can use as a toolbox engine for not only rank 3s, but also rank 4s as well, which I find to be really good. It has good synergy with modern engines like the Armored Xyzs and everything like that. I have a lot of fun playing around with sharks in Umi control with some of their engines and all the cards that they offer. I think it's really cool. Sharks, they are doing a lot in tournaments right now, so I think sharks are definitely a really good contender.
Another cool thing is cards like Behemoth Shark, very generic, can get you out really strong cards like any level 3 or lower like Water Xyzs. So, you know, just easy access to Totally Awesome. I know Totally Awesome is not a shark card, but it's an honorary shark card. So yeah, definitely a top tier Zexal deck. Next up, Gaga, Go, all of those guys. We have Gaga Cowboy here, but he represents like the onomatopoeia type cards. They're like, I'd say the bottom of the I Like Trains tier. They're okay. They have some good like extra deck cards, like Gaga Cowboy is very good. Gaga Magician is not a bad card at all, but like as a deck, it's just not good. It's supposed to be like an Xyz toolbox to kind of go into rank 4s, but there are so many better versions of this, and it's very outdated, so it was mainly meant to be a support archetype in the anime to like Yuma's Utopia stuff. But yeah, not the best in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot of the Xyzs themselves are really good if you're doing like a toolbox Xyz type build. But in terms of an overall archetype themselves, they kind of are a bit lackluster. The monsters are really good. Gaga Cowboy especially is just a good generic monster that's able to like win you a few games just because you can win for time and things like that. But in terms of an overall archetype, yeah, no, they definitely aren't the best at all.
Next we have Battlin Boxers. They actually got support recently, and they're not half bad. I'd say they're probably better than Utopia.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely put them in the second tier where we have them right now. They're definitely better than Utopia in the sense that they do have a lot more cards in the archetype that are a lot better in terms of consistency and things like that. I think Battlin Boxers are really good just because they kind of have a bit of fan support behind them as well. A lot of people love Battlin Boxers. When fans really enjoy a deck, that's when Konami would actually like to support in many ways. So I definitely think Battlin Boxers is here to stay. Probably not the strongest deck on this list. I don't think it's as good as Sharks, but still really good.
It has a lot of really good counter traps. They're Fire Warriors, so that has a lot of just like support in itself. One of their newest cards, Battlin Boxer King Dempsey, just searches any Fire Warrior card. So even in decks like Infernobles and just any Fire Warrior deck, they're just like a little mini engine to have that's just really good. I think they're definitely better than Utopia, so I like them up here. One of the best decks from Zexal. Next up, Numeron. Okay, Numeron is very gimmicky, but its gimmick is like decent. You're basically, it's a blind second OTK deck, and if you fail to OTK, you link into your Infinite Track Megaclops, which is just like a towers, a 4K towers. So it's an alright deck. Like, it's just a going second blind OTK deck. If you can't win on your first turn, you're not going to win the duel. It's a gimmick that kind of works. You know, you can catch your opponent off guard. In a best of 3 scenario, it's not going to win you anything. It's not like a good going second deck, but it can catch your opponent off guard. It can steal wins. I think it's okay.
I will admit I'm quite biased. I really like Numerons. I think they're really funny. I would arguably put it at the top of I Like Trains, like the top of the mid tier. I do personally prefer them more than Galaxy Eyes, just because I think Numeron can actually work as well as a package, not just as a full deck itself. You can actually stick this in to a lot of OTK decks and kind of have like a small little engine that can really catch your opponent off guard. This can hinder a few decks, but it can also benefit many others. So I'd give it the edge just above Galaxy Eyes. But if you want to keep it there, that's totally fine. At least it's better than Onomatopoeia.
It's OG Tenpai Dragon. That's pretty much what it is. Next up, Trains. Now, I love Trains, but I still think Sharks are better. But Trains are just So good. They're just so awesome. We have Gustav Max. We have Derry Crane, Bullet Train, Juggernaut Lieb. So many good trains, man. Trains are just awesome. What can I say? They're Earth Machines, so they're just like good in generic Earth Machine pile decks. Man, trains are just so cool. I like trains. Next up, we have Umbral Horror. They're horrible. They're Utopia beyond awful because they're just not good.
Yeah, so it consists mostly of Dark Fiend monsters, and you use them to bring out your other Umbral Horror monsters. They're good if you're looking for a deck that can use rank 2 and rank 4 Xyz monsters, but overall they're not really as powerful as one might hope for a like anime deck. They're not great. I think especially when you compare them to all the other good like Fiend decks that are out there, such as like Ubel, such as there's Fiend Link is kind of seeing a lot of play in the OCG right now. If you want to play a Fiend deck, this is definitely the last one that should be on your list. So it's a cool idea, but just not that great.
Next up we have Chronomaly. They were part of a very funny FTK. At least one of their cards is used in an FTK. And they have very funny looking cards. And that gives it the edge over Umbral Horror. Chronomaly, kind of based. Next up, a surprisingly really good deck. Gimmick Puppets are getting new support very soon, and it's looking to be a very consistent FTK deck, which is terrifying because FTKs are not good for the game, but this deck just seems to be able to FTK very, very consistently. The new support is actually really good. Gimmick Puppets were very gimmicky before this, but now it just seems like they have an actual chance at being like a somewhat meta / rogue deck. Before the new support, they were kind of like, they did have gimmicks. They had one card that was like an alternate win condition that could just win using its effect. Some of the other cards were decent. They saw some like play in decks, but overall they were not good until the new support came out. And yeah, the new support is looking to be insane. I think because it's an FTK deck, it is inherently gimmicky. I know it is a bit better than like regular FTK decks because it has a backup plan, but I think we're going to put Sharks a bit above because Sharks are probably a more consistent deck, so I think Gimmick Puppets are a bit below them in that regard.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like Konami's going to nip this in the butt really, really quick so that they don't really allow an FTK deck to be popular and dominate a format or anything like that. They're going to try and like suppress this as quickly as they can, much like they did to other decks like Superheavy Samurai and things like that. Gimmick Puppets, I think people will get very creative with this deck. I have a lot of hope that I pray it's not going to just be an FTK type deck. I feel like people will get creative with it and actually start enjoying the deck and doing stuff that might be experimental and share ideas and things like that. I think I have a lot of hope for the deck potential. I think it's in the too much of the early stage for me to give a proper diagnosis of what I think what direction the deck is gonna go. But I do think it belongs in the high tiers. Of course, it's not as good as Sharks, but I do have a lot of hope for the deck in the future.
Next up, Star Seraph. I don't even know what these cards do. I know they have a really stupid Link monster that's really bad. They're just, I don't know, they're not worth talking about, to be honest. I don't think you should ever play this deck. Next up, Tachyon. So Tachyon, you can include it with Galaxy Eyes, so for that reason, we'll put them together. But Tachyon have a few like specific Tachyon cards. They're okay because you can technically play Tachyon without playing Galaxy Eyes. A lot of them are just generic rank 8s. So they're okay, they're kind of cool. They are getting new support, but the new support is very much tied to Galaxy Eyes. So it's kind of a stretch like separating them, but they are pretty cool. There are some like counter traps. They're kind of good generic rank 8s you can put in certain decks. So yeah, I think they're like not too bad, but there's not much of a difference between Galaxy Eyes and Tachyon. They're very much complementary. So yeah, I'd say we have to rank them about the same. Next up, oh my god. The only reason we're ranking this so low is because Rongo Miniat is banned. If he was legal, this deck would be insane. The deck itself is only okay, but Rongo Miniat as a card is insane. One of the most oppressive floodgates the game has ever seen, because there's no way to out it. You cannot kaiju it, you cannot like interact with it, you can't like kill it. It's insane. It's like one of the most powerful floodgates the game has ever seen.
Yeah, I do really like all the other like hero champion cards. I really like Excalibur and everything like that. I think they're really cool. Generic rank 4s, well, not generic, they do need to go in warrior decks and things like that. I'm just a sucker for warrior decks in that sense. I do really like a bunch of them, and I do like when smaller like rank 4 XZs are able to just go up in attack stats and deal huge amount of damage. I think heroic champions are really, really cool at doing that. But yeah, this guy is definitely a very oppressive card, and he should never come off the ban list.
I think if we ignore him, the deck is really cool. That's kind of like a blind stack and OTK deck, because you get your guys up to really high attack. You get a lot of them out, they can all attack, really high attack. It's fun, you know, OTK decks are always fun. But yeah, some of the cards in this deck are a bit too much. And finally, Heraldic Beasts, probably around like here, because I think they were decent for a while. Like very early when they came out, they were playable. But you know, like who plays Heraldics in 2024? They were okay. Like, but you wouldn't play them now, but they had a place in like the 2014 meta or whenever it came out. They're like decent. I don't know. We're on Arc 5. So let's get right into it. We have a few tiers here. We have Pen Summon 5, Constellar, DDD's Nuts, Out of Work Actors, and that's all. So let's begin with everyone's favorite dragon deck, Odd Eyes. Okay, what do you think about Odd Eyes?
I quite like Odd Eyes, you know, it was like one of the first pen decks I actually kind of got to know. Don't get me wrong, it's not a great deck either, but I was introduced to it through the Legendary Dragon Decks collection, which is a sealed product that came out a couple years ago. But it's definitely the weakest deck out of like those 3 decks that were in the actual set. So it's a nice deck if you're getting introduced to pendulums, but in terms of pendulum decks, there's so much better and stronger decks out there. But Odd Eyes just has so much support that can also be a bit overwhelming if you're getting into it in the first place. But I would honestly say just a run-of-the-mill mid-tier deck. I think it definitely belongs in DDD's Nuts.
I do like Odd Eyes though, because it has a few like really good cards, like generic good cards. Like it has the rank 7, which goes into your Vortex Dragon, which is really cool because it's just a negate. I have some like kind of cards that can just fit into random decks. So, you know, some of its cards are cool, but the deck as its own, it's like, it's a bit much. There's a lot to it, and there's not much of a payoff.
Yeah, that's true. I do agree with the rank 7. I've been trying to get that to work with some Dragon Rulers as well, so it is pretty cool how it can work its way into other decks.
Next up, Supreme King / the Zark archetype. It has new support, so it's not half bad. Like, genuinely, it's not an awful deck. As a Pendulum deck, it's definitely one of the best Pendulum decks.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the main thing that was keeping this deck down is that it was so hard to get into your boss monster, and it took you ages and so much setup. The payoff was great when you finally did it, just because of the satisfaction that you actually brought out your main guy. But it just took a long while. In fact, if you go back on this channel, like one of our older videos, I was trying to win with like a really bad Exodia deck, and I went against a deck of King Zark. And I swear it was probably like 10 turns of me playing a bad deck for him to finally get his boss monster to win. It was a dreadful duel. I just don't have like a good expectation of the deck, but now with the new support it might get up a little bit more. I think it's definitely, with the new support, it's going to be a bit better than Odd Eyes, so definitely in the second tier of Constellar, I think it's where it belongs.
I like the mechanic. I like the way it's like, oh, you have to summon all the 5 dimension dragons and infuse into him. Obviously that's not how you do it now, but it's just kind of cool where it's like, get all these boss monsters together to summon the ultimate boss monster, even though it's definitely not better than just having the 4 boss monsters on the field. The trap card's really cool because I can just special summon it, and it can find its way into decks like Dynamorphia, which is very funny because of half your life points. It's pretty cool. The support definitely helped it a lot, and of course, the main villain of Arc 5, so it's pretty cool. Next up, Performer Pal. This deck is kind of insane. Monkey Board is one hell of a card.
Yeah, this was definitely like a tier 0 format. We weren't playing at the time, so we didn't get too much experience with it. But reading through all the cards, it's understandable how like this got really out of hand really quickly. The fact that a bunch of these cards are able to search like a few different like archetypes as well. Like we will probably talk about this a bit later when we're talking about all the other ones, but like Pendulum Magicians, like the Magician cards, the Performage and the Performer Pal, they all kind of blended in together, and they were kind of just a hybrid of a Pendulum deck, which had some really good cards that are still really powerful to this day. They were just really broken, especially the likes of Monkey Board and everything like that. Like, it's no wonder they made it to the ban list just because these cards are really, really good. I think this is, like, without a question, probably one of the best decks in this entire tier list. Probably one of the best decks that was ever, like, made. Maybe not, maybe that might be a slight exaggeration because, you know, we experienced tier recently and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely when Pendulum decks were good, they were really good, and this is no exception.
I think we can also include like Perform Age because it's kind of like a big package, you know. I think Pendulum Magicians are different enough that we can rank them separately, but these two kind of going together makes sense, I'd say. They both contribute to each other, and, you know, Perform Age plus Fire is still banned. These decks are really strong, just generic, really good Pendulum stuff. Next up, Raid Raptor. For coolness alone, they go up here. But I mean, if we're talking about like meta relevance, probably be here. They're probably one of the best decks on this list, at least in Modern. And of course, they're really cool. Everyone loves Raid Raptors. Everyone loves bird decks for whatever reason. If we're talking about like in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, obviously these like really crazy pen decks are above it. But as a modern day deck that's got new support, it's really cool and really good.
One of the main gimmicks of like Raid Raptors is just using like the rank up cards to go into their bigger and bigger monsters. So Ultimate Falcon was the boss monster for a long time, but now with the new support, there's a new boss monster that is another Towers. And we all know how fun Towers can be when you're trying to out them. So the fact that it's able to bring out a Towers, and it's not all that difficult to bring it out as well, just with a little bit of setup, it's a very, very powerful deck. And it's one of these like combo decks that can just go in so many different directions that you don't really know when to interrupt your opponent. So it's definitely high end of the second tier, so Raid Raptors are definitely stellar.
Superheavy Samurai!
Oh, we were so close!
I think, if we're talking about like Master Duel, because we had Scarecrow and Master Duel for a while, and if we're talking about like Superheavy Samurai as its like peak form, it's definitely one of the best decks. Pure Superheavy Samurai was insane.
Yeah, I agree. I just have really bad like PTSD of buying this deck and like spending a good bit of money on all the cards only for it to get hit like next week by them banning Scarecrow in TCG. I think if we get Scarecrow back, hopefully sooner rather than later, I'd definitely be playing this deck a lot more, because it can definitely take a whole lot of routes, but I do have to say that this deck got absolutely murdered in TCG. They got rid of Scarecrow, yeah, it really sucks, but you can still play the deck and it's good. But you were mostly relying on it for like your generic sort of synchros and things you can go into. It had a really easy way to get Barone out and also Borload Savage Dragon as well. But now they're both banned too, and so is Scarecrow. So right now, yeah, Superheavy Samurai is pretty dead in the TCG. But hey, Master Duel, they're making great waves. And who knows, if we get Scarecrow back, it might make great waves in the future as well.
Next up, Predaplant. So obviously this is Starving Venom Fusion, but it's one of the boss monsters of Predaplants. Predaplants are really cool. Of course, they have a lot of super poly targets, which means that you can just see them in a lot of decks as like good generic super poly targets. But Predaplants on their own are just a really cool deck. They're really good with decks like Branded. If you run like a Branded Predaplant deck, it's actually really cool. They can search any fusion spell, which is super cool. It's really cool with stuff like Super Poly, because you already have so many Super Poly targets, and it can search Super Poly, which is hilarious. So I really like the deck. I think it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, Predaplants have some of the most powerful like monsters out there. Of course, Starving Venom, part of that. It's just a really good Super Poly target that you're able to get rid of 2 dark monsters on the field, which is great. Draco's Tapelia, of course, is another really good Super Poly target that you can just throw into a bunch of decks that run Super Poly. And of course, how can we forget Predaplant Verte Anaconda. Absolutely insane card. It's limited in Master Duel, I believe, but it's banned in TCG. But man, did I have some good memories with that in TCG. What a card. The fact that you're able to just link into it, which is a pretty generic way to link into it as well. It only took 2 effect monsters. Pay 2k, send a fusion spell from your deck to the graveyard, and then that monster's effect becomes that fusion spell. Absolutely insane. Although I hate the way the Red Eyes Dragoon players abused it, I had a lot of fun using it in Cyber Dragon when I wanted to overload fusion and things. It was just such a really good card. So Predaplants definitely have some really insane powerful monsters. But in terms of it being a really, really good deck, it's still strong, but I feel like there's just a few more decks that have a bit better consistency on this list.
Luna Lights are not one of those decks. They're very cool, but they're not the best. Another fusion archetype revolving around like Beast and like Wing Beast and Beast Warrior Pendulum monsters. They're pretty cool. They can search a bunch of fusion stuff. They have some pretty strong fusion monsters, which is great, but maybe some more support in the future, they could rise up again. But for now, about mid-tier.
I put it along the lines of Odd Eyes, just because it's one of these decks that was pretty good for the time, and like in fairness, like they did get hit with the ban list in a few different places, but when some of those cards like came back or whatever, like they didn't make too much of a difference. The deck kind of like passed its prime, but I definitely agree if it just gets a little bit more support, it can probably do some damage in the future. But in the time being, it's definitely like a middle of the range deck. I know there's some like Lone Life fans out there, and I'm sure there's a lot of passionate people about this deck, but I know this is just opinions. Let's just be fair about this.
Next up, DDD. As much as I want to put it in here, I think it's a pretty good deck, maybe about the top of the second tier. DDDs are really good. They have a lot of really good boss monsters. Really cool combo deck. You just need an IQ of like 1 billion to be able to play them. It's a very tough deck to get a hold of. There's so many cards, so many different ways you can play it. But it's really cool. The design is really awesome as well. I like the gimmick of you have your dark contract cards, which are important, and you can either like pay life points or get rid of a dark contract to use effects and stuff like that. It's really cool. There's even some really good generic DDD monsters like Wave King Caesar, stuff like that, which is really cool. So yeah, I think it goes about there. It's an awesome deck.
It's so complicated, and it can be really, really tricky to master. I don't know anyone who's mastered it. I'm sure there's people out there. It's definitely very, very powerful, but honestly, I don't know enough about it to be in a position, but it looks pretty neat having it on the top of the second tier right there. I definitely agree with you right there.
Next up, Phantom Knights. I'd say about here. Phantom Knights are just so cool. I'd say top tier. Phantom Knights are just super cool. They're so fun. They're just a really cool Xyz deck. They can do so many different things. You can play them so many different ways. You can play them with Horus, you can play them pure. They can pop cards, they can OTK really easily. You can set up negates. It's just such a cool deck. The aesthetic is awesome. They have a lot of effects in the graveyard, so they synergize with a lot of different cards. They have a lot of really good traps as well, like Fog Blade and Shade Brigandine, stuff like that. They're just a really, really good deck. They're super cool, and they're still really good in TCG. Not the best, but they've held up over time better than a lot of other decks in this list. Next, Abyss Actors. Abyss Actors are okay. I think they're the top of the mid tier. They're not bad. They're a cool deck. They have some potential as like a blind second deck. They have like kind of a cool aesthetic. You know, a decently cool pendulum deck. They're fine.
Although I do want to, for the memes, put it at the top of like the bottom tier of out of work actors. They do have like some potential. They are pretty good. I have massive respect for any like blind second decks out there. So the fact that this deck can go blind second and actually perform pretty well is pretty impressive, I have to say. So fair play to them. And yeah, I tried playing this deck a little bit. I do like the gimmick where like you can force your opponent to pop your back row in order to get you some insane effects. But I don't know. I didn't really enjoy playing this deck, so that's where I kind of like let it lose a few points in that case. But I wasn't building it as a blind second. Who knows, maybe that way is a bit more fun.
Next up, Desk Bots. As we all know, Desk Bots are the best deck in the game. An Earth Machine deck that has some of the most incredibly strong cards the game has ever seen. On par with cards like Kuriboh. It's just insane. The deck genuinely is really cool. It's really cool how you can just like spam the board with a bunch of Desk Bots. You can go into some really funny cards, like you can go into Infinity. Because you have like level 5 machine guys. You have cards that can boost all your monsters' attack really high. This is a really cool deck. It's really funny.
Yeah, I played Despots for a bit. I actually really liked them because I liked the way I was able to play some like generic machine stuff. Like I was sick of Sean always playing Urgent Schedule against me, so the fact that I was able to play Urgent Schedule was a lot of fun. That, and also likes the machine duplication, and also one of my favorite cards of all time is Reasoning. And Reasoning works really well in this deck because all of your Despots, they have different levels that's like in their name. So being able to play Reasoning very effectively, I find to be really, really good. Honestly, the way I'm praising Despots is most just because of how well they can play other good generic cards more than the Despots themselves. Because honestly, their boss monsters can be a bit underwhelming. Despot 009 doesn't really do too much, and also Despot Jet, the Synchro 10,
has no business being a level 10. It's like not good enough to actually put in so much resources to bring out a level 10 monster. It definitely deserves to be some smaller kind of level. I don't really think Despots will get a whole lot of support in the near future. I just don't see it happening, to be honest with you. But in terms of being a really funny meme deck, I think it is quite hilarious. So I would definitely put it really up there because it has a special place in my heart.
And don't forget, Despot 001 was vital for the Hulk Auroradon combos, so we can't forget it for that. Next up, Melodious. I'd say, obviously Melodious right now is really good, and it's definitely better than Superheavy Samurai now, but I'd say if we're talking about like peak decks, I think Superheavy Samurai was better than like Melodious now. But Melodious is really cool. It definitely had such a glow up. It was so bad before the new support, but the new support made it so good. Personally, I don't really like the deck too much because it was just so bad for so long. Whenever I saw the cards, I'm like, yeah, this deck is just kind of trash. I haven't had much experience against like the new version of Melodious. It's cool that it's good now and it has some like crazy combos and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like pretty good, but it wouldn't be my favorite in terms of like archetype or aesthetic or any of that. It wouldn't be my favorite, but it is definitely a great deck. Next up, Pendulum Magicians. They're okay. It's not really like its own deck. It's kind of just like good cards in Pendulum decks. I kind of like the idea though. They have some cool cards like Stargazer and Time Gazer and stuff like that. If you want to include Astrograph Sorcerer, stuff like that. They're pretty cool. They have really cool design. Some of the first Pendulum cards I ever saw. As its own deck, it's not really much, but they are vital cards in any type of Pendulum deck. So they're cool, and I guess you could make the argument, put them with the Performer Pal, stuff like that. But I think they're kind of like different enough that we can kind of include them as their own thing. They're cool, but they're not the best. Next up, Speedroids. Unironically pretty good. Just kind of a synchro spam type of deck. Get out your Clear Wing. Get out like some really strong synchros. Really good combos. They don't synergize with the old Roids because the vehicle Roids were too strong. Cyrus is too much of a Giga Chad to let other people play his cards, apparently. They're a cool deck though. They have a lot of like really funny synchro cards. As you can see there, it's just a Dual Runner as a card, which is awesome. They have some really big synchro cards, which are not the best. Like they have that Synchro 12, which doesn't really do anything. Like it's definitely not better than Crystal Wing, but it's just super cool looking. All of the cards look super weird as well, which is like really funny. It's just a cool deck. I really like it.
People use the Speedroid Terratop for like small little packages in other decks, which is a sign of a really powerful archetype if you're able to sprinkle a little bit into other decks as well. So Speedroids definitely deserve to be up there very high. Definitely deserves its place at the end of the second tier. Definitely a Constar deck.
Next up, Yosenju. They're bad. They're pretty bad. They're spirit monsters. You summon one, you search another, and you can just summon it again. So you can kind of spam the board, but for not much payoff. Of course, there's spirit monsters, so they go back to your hand.
Yeah, it's pretty much if you want to play a rank 4 deck, but play a rank 4 deck that is the worst version of a rank 4 deck, you might as well play this. The fact that the monsters don't even stick the field going into the next turn is just really, really bad, so you're just losing resource at the end of it. People think, oh, it's good because, you're able to always have resource in your hand because they always go back to your hand. Yeah, but you're always leaving your field wide open as well, so you're leaving yourself pretty vulnerable unless you're playing like a bunch of good trap cards in the back row, which, most people just don't do now, and this is just such a frustratingly bad deck. I really don't like this deck at all. I think the gimmick is so bad. I don't like anything about it. I think it definitely deserves to be in the low tier out of work actors.
Next up, Frightfur / Fluffle, that type of archetype. It's about here. It's a pretty cool fusion archetype. The aesthetic is pretty insane. You have these cute little plushies, and then you have like these insane like amalgamations of like the plushies have been ripped open and they have like spikes and shit coming out of them. They're pretty creepy, but they're like really cool. They can be a pretty good combo deck, and they have some really strong fusion monsters. They have stuff that can help you go for OTK. I'm pretty sure they basically have a DPE, pop one card your opponent controls and one card you control. They're pretty good at like breaking boards and stuff like that. They're pretty cool, and they even have like good synergy with stuff like Branded, just with like Frightfur Patchwork alone. Searches you Poly and an Edge Imp, which is really, really good.
Yeah, I just really like fusion decks with a bit of an edge to them. No pun intended. It's just really, really cool. They remind me a lot of Shaddolls in that sense. I think it's really, really good. Yeah, their boss monsters are pretty good as well. They don't really rely on the one gimmick. They actually are like very, very good. I just quite like them. I like everything about them. The aesthetic, the fact it's a fusion deck. I think it definitely deserves a spot in the second tier.
Next up, Lyrilusk. Now Lyrilusk are kind of weird. They're pretty cool. They're really good at spamming the board. They can go into some pretty cool XZs. You can put little packages into certain decks like Tri-Brigade. Lyrilusk was a big deck. They can help you go into stuff like Utopic Draco Future, which is just a monster negate, which is really good. But I don't know, I played them recently in that one Master Duel event with the Water and Wind, and I don't know, I did not jive with the deck. It did not do me well. Maybe it's a skill issue. I mean, it probably is a skill issue, but I don't know. They let me down. But of course, you know, a bird deck, everyone loves bird decks. No one has ever hated a bird deck. So I really like the idea and the concept of the deck, but you know, they're decent. Next up, Constellar. Constellar were like really good for a while. Like they won Worlds before, so they're a damn good deck. Even though they got new support recently, it hasn't done much for the deck. I really like the deck. I think it's really cool. They have a lot of really cool things they can do. There's some really funny XZs. It's a really cool light deck. It's really cool to see like light decks being good, because it's mostly dark decks that are good, but seeing a good light deck is really cool. They were insane when they were good, but right now they're a cool deck, nothing crazy. Some of their XZs are generic, which is really cool, so you can just pop some cards into certain decks. Like they have that rank 6, which you can put in a good few decks, which is really cool. So yeah, pretty much like the most mid deck you can think of, in a good way. Next up, Flower Cardians. They're funny. They're based on Hanafuda cards, which is cool. I like decks that really kind of go hard into one kind of gimmick idea. So I think they're like really cool, but they're just not good. But you know, I think they're cool enough to be up here. They're funny, they're goofy, they really kind of try to stick to one idea, and I think they pull it off pretty well.
Yeah, you can't get worse than Yosenju anyway, so definitely a bit higher than them.
I think you can. Aqua Actress. They're just not good. They have so few cards, they just don't do anything. They're just bad. It's not really a deck, like, let's be honest, it's not really a deck.
Speaking of not really a deck.
Yeah, I think Wind Witches are really, really cool, but they're really only used as like an engine to get out like synchros. So you'll really only use it to get out like Crystal Wing Dragon, which is great, but you wouldn't really like put this into a deck as a little engine.
The stress you have to go through with these things just to get out the one powerful monster of Crystal Wing is just not worth it at all. So many other decks can get out Crystal Wing so easily without the hassle of having this like little gimmicky sort of engine in it that I don't even think is worth it. It's just not good. It's like a fun little engine if anything. Definitely not a good deck. It can only get you out one very good boss monster, but a boss monster's been around for so long that people know how to out it now. So I don't know. Wind Witches, they just don't really do it anymore.
And finally, Prediction Princess. They focus on flip monsters, and we all know how insane Penguin Soldier is in the meta. So obviously they're a broken deck. Of course, like flip monsters, you know, kind of a cool idea, and it's kind of cool to have a deck based around it, but they're just not good. The new support's cool and all, but they're not a great deck. You wouldn't really play this as a pure deck anyway. You would play like 1 or 2 cards in a flip deck, but that's about it. But cool designs, like the cards look insanely cool. The gimmick is kind of cool, but that's about it. With the best VRAINS deck tier list.
Sevens does not exist.
Nope, not a real series. That is fake. Rush Duel is not real. We're playing some proper Master Duel 5 Yu-Gi-Oh! So let's get right into it. We have a few tiers here. We have
Salaman Great, Borolo Dragon D's Nuts, Burn for 200, Marin Sus, and Knockoff IKEA.
We'll begin with a pretty infamous deck. We have Gokis. I think Gokis are probably mid-tier because they did have their time in the sun being like the most insane FTK deck Yu-Gi-Oh's ever seen. However, now they're just really like not great. They're okay. They made an impact like 100%. Nowadays, they're not really seeing any play at all. They're a cool deck though. I do like the gimmick. I do kind of like their aesthetic. They are a cool archetype. But yeah, they definitely fell off. I'm glad they fell off because if this deck was still meta, that would be a bit much. Even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That would be a bit too much to handle. But they have some pretty cool cards. I really like the Link 4 they have where it can just destroy a bunch of cards.
Honestly, I'd argue to put them in the second tier, Borlo Dragon these nuts, just because in the context of all these other decks here, they're definitely a bit stronger. I'm a bit of a sucker for warrior decks as well. I really like a few of the Goki cards. I really like Goki Guts. I think Guts is really cool. I'm a fan of like, if you're really stuck, you can just do a classic set Guts and pass, considering that Guts can't be destroyed by battle, which, you know, it's a bit gimmicky, but I quite like it. I do think that Goki is very good because it's a very accessible deck at the time as well, because a lot of these cards are printed out to be common, so it's very easy for you to get your hands on an actual Goki deck back in the day as well, and it's even easier now, of course. I'm just a sucker for powerful decks that like don't have high rarity, really expensive gimmicks and stuff like that. So I really do like the Goki deck. I'll put them in the second tier, Borlo Dragon these nuts.
Next up we have Adignister. Now obviously if we compare the two here, Adignister should go up here, but I feel like there will be a big bridge between these two decks. I feel like Adignister is obviously very good, still good in the modern day. It's just like kind of like Cyber's Pile type of deck. The main gimmick is that you have a bunch of different guys with different attributes, and you keep summoning them, and you go into a big Towers monster, which gets very high attack, and they can pretty easily OTK as well. If we compare this to its closest counterpart, which would be Code Talkers, I think it's more consistent than Code Talkers, but I think Code Talkers kind of has a higher ceiling, can do a lot more. But as a deck, I do think Adignisters are really good. You could definitely argue for them to be at the top tier. Just a very solid, very consistent, very good Cyber's deck.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They're a Cyber's deck in every way you can apply that. They rely a lot on themselves, so you can basically make a full power deck using just Adignister monsters, but the fact that they can actually like mesh well with a few other Cyber's cards is just really good. I'm still salty with this deck because the amount of times I got like Access Code Talker able to attack twice, OTK'd with this deck, is so goddamn annoying. So I definitely feel a bit of salt towards this deck, but I still have to admit that it is very good and very powerful, and it's consistent as well, considering that they're able to use so many other searches within themselves too. So yeah, they're definitely a very good deck. Not too sure if they're the top tier when it comes to all these decks that we're about to talk about, but definitely in the high end of Borlo Dragon these nuts.
Next up, Tindangles. What were they thinking? This deck is not even real. This deck is beyond awful. It doesn't do anything. It's not really even a deck. It's just like a few monsters that have a really bad gimmick. They just don't even do anything. I don't even know what this deck is. It's awful. Tindangle these nuts. Next up, Marincess. Everyone knows Marincess. They are not Marinsus. They are very good. I would argue better than Adignister because Marincess have seen a lot more success competitively. Their whole gimmick is that they have a bunch of one-card starters, which can end on a very powerful Link 4, which is in a gate. And their engine is pretty small, so you can fit in a lot of non-engine, so you can just fill the deck with board breakers and hand traps, which is fantastic. Marincess have topped a lot of events. They're just a very solid deck. They're extremely consistent and very cheap, so it's really just a great deck to be able to pick up and play. Has a very high skill ceiling. Anyone can pick up the deck, but if you commit to this deck, you can see very good results. Their aesthetic is really cool. It's great to see a water archetype being actually good. We're all used to dark and fire decks being really good, but you know, a good water deck is great to see. So I think it's definitely one of the best decks introduced in VRAINS.
Maybe if we like reconsider everything, it might go a little higher. Maybe it might be on the low end of the top tier, but as of right now, it's sitting comfortably at the top of the second tier. Borlo Dragon these nuts.
Speaking of Borlo Dragon, we have Boral/Rockets. I don't want to consider this like Dragon Link because obviously Boral and Rocket cards are vital to Dragon Link, but this is not Dragon Link. This is just like pure Rockets, pure Borals, and they have a lot of really good cards. They have Borlo Dragon, obviously was a great card when it came out. Borlo Savage Dragon banned in TCG. An insanely good generic synchro that's just an Omni-Negate, which is insane. Boral End Dragon is one of the best boss monsters in Dragon Link. Then you have your Rockets, you have Quick Launch, which special summons a Rocket from deck. All the Rockets are dragons, so it's just free dragon material on field. Rocket Tracer, being able to pop a card to special summon even more Rockets. We have Striker Dragon, we have Boot Sector Launch. All these insanely good cards in Dragon decks. But if you're playing like a pure Rocket Dragon deck, it's only going to get you so far. The cards are fantastic, but if they're confined to the archetype, they're not as good as they could be, so that's why I think they belong about here. I do like their gimmick where they focus on destroying cards, kind of like the Dragon deck version of Dinosaurs where they gain effects when they're destroyed. So you can destroy them and you can bring them back and they gain a bunch of effects. I really like the aesthetic. I think the monsters are really, really cool. But I do think they belong about there if you're playing them on their own.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially with those two Link 4s before Access Code Talker came out. They were the OTK enablers, especially with the likes of Burrosaur Dragon and things like that. I do like the monsters and the cards on their own, but it's just hard to talk about these without bringing up Dragon Link because they're so sensitive to Dragon Link. They basically shape the whole deck in itself. But as an archetype within itself, it's still pretty good. I think they're just edging over Gokis just because of the whole Dragon Link stuff. If they're on their own, yeah, they probably still out Gokis maybe a little bit, but I kind of feel like they're on par. But yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about them without even like mentioning how good Dragon Link is.
Next up we have Trickstar. Everyone loves burning for 200. Trickstar is a very funny archetype. I do like it a lot for being just like silly. It's a very gimmicky, funny archetype. Genuinely very, very strong when it first came out. One of like the best decks when it was introduced. Their whole gimmick is that they have a bunch of cards that when your opponent does anything, they can be burned for 200. And that can stack, and it can be not once per turn. And you can just burn your opponent to death 200 life points at a time, which is really, really funny. They're very consistent, they can all search each other. They have really good link monsters. They have really funny gimmicks as well. Cards like Trickstar Reincarnation combined with Droll is just a full hand rip, which is really, really funny. So one of the best decks when it came out. It has fallen off a lot, but it is getting new support, which is really cool. A fan favorite deck, but I think it belongs about mid-tier.
One thing I will say about them is that the deck is still kind of pricey enough because all of these cards were never really commons. They're all like ultras and secrets and stuff like that. Even Light Sage is still like a pricey enough card considering that came off the ban list recently. You can still pick this deck up for like relatively cheap enough, but it is expensive, so it's not the easiest deck to access. And considering the power level in comparison to how hard it is to access the deck, it's not the greatest. It's definitely far, far away from what Morenses is. But you know, I think they're pretty cool. I like the aesthetic of them. They're pretty interesting. And burning for 200, just very, very funny. What more can we say?
Next up, Salamangrates. Definitely one of the best decks introduced from VRAINS. A really, really good link deck. One of the main parts of TOS format. And even now in a Fire format, it still sees plenty of play. Still very relevant. The new support the deck got recently is really, really good. The direct Salamangrate support in combination with just generic fire support like your Promethean Princess make this deck insanely strong. They're really cool because they're a really big kind of wombo combo deck, but they end on some really strong interruptions and traps. They have a searchable counter trap, which is an Omni Negate. They have the trap card that can tribute a Salamangrate monster and then destroy cards in the field up to the link rating of that monster, which you can easily end on a link 4 Salamangrate, so you can just easily pop 4 cards whenever you like. The deck is absolutely crazy. Really cool that the deck stayed relevant. It was obviously one of the best decks in TOS format, and even now, it's just a fantastic deck. I think it definitely earns its spot in the top tier.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This is by far the best deck out of everything we're going to talk about in this video. Salads are just really, really good. They were so powerful during TOS format that they had to get absolutely crucified by the ban list by banning their rank 3 guy and also limiting Gazelle to 1. But Salads are at full power now and they're back again and they're still seeing a lot of play. They're not topping events per se, but they are still making appearances here and there and they're doing very, very well. The new support that they got recently enough is fantastic as well, but it's also that Link 4 is generic enough that's able to fit into a few other fire decks too, which people like to take advantage of a little bit, but that's fine. It's a really, really good card. We don't blame people for doing that. I do like the gimmick when they have that field spell up that they're able to use link monsters as themselves to kind of go into other copies of themselves. I'm a big fan of combo decks that are able to set up like some very good negation, as you already mentioned, having that Salamangrate Roar. The counter trap is of course very powerful as well. The fact that the deck is consistent enough that's able to search itself out and like doing a lot with very little, I find to be very, very good. So Sal is definitely the best deck on this list.
Speaking of a good deck, we have Topologic. They're not good. It's not really a deck. It's a few extra deck cards that they are very good. Bomber Dragon, not really, but Zeraboros is fantastic. Gains a bunch of attack depending on how many banished cards you have. Really good for setting up for OTKs. Really good in kind of like mill decks or like decks that banish a lot. On Master Duel, you see it a lot in tier builds where you can use Snow, banish a bunch of cards from the grave, go into this, and then you can get up to a bunch of attack. And its main effect is where if a monster is special summoned to a zone it points to, you just wipe your opponent's board, which is absolutely insane. Topologics do have synergy with Boral cards. The more recent Boraload Link 3 monster is able to bring out some Topologic cards, so they do have some synergy, but for the most part, it's not really an archetype. It's just some really powerful monsters, and they are really cool, but you cannot really play this as a deck, so it does belong very low on the tier list.
Okay, appliancers, they're not great. Honestly, they're probably worse than Topologics. They're just not good. So appliancers, they have a few different attributes, but mostly rely on like water and dark to go into their link monsters. They have very puny attacks, so they're not like the greatest, but they're able to spam the board a lot. And they're even just able to spam even more based on the gimmick that if some of their link monsters are co-linked with other link monsters. Co-linking is one of those like gimmicks or those mechanics that had a lot of potential when Link first came out, but they just never really went anywhere. If you think of all the Link monsters we have in this game and the amount of them that actually talk about having more effects when they're co-linked, it's very few and far between, just because that's never really what the whole potential of Links were meant to be. And just co-linking is such a bad gimmick. And having the payoff of what the appliancers can do when they're co-linked, of just orienting the board even more with more appliancer monsters, it's just not worth it, because the appliancers are just not great on their own. And it will take a whole lot of support before they are anything great, but for the time being, they never really did anything at events. They're not doing anything now. Pretty much just a forgotten archetype. Definitely Marin sus.
Next up, Dino Wrestlers. I think it's good and bad. Obviously, Dino Wrestlers have some really strong cards, specifically Pankratops, one of the best cards in the game. Limited for the longest time, now we're slowly seeing it come back. A free special summon that you can tribute to destroy a card in the field. It's just really, really good. Generic as well, you don't need to be running a Dino Wrestler deck to use Pankratops. Dino Wrestlers as an archetype, they're cool enough. They have some really strong links and they have some synchros and stuff like that. It does bother me that they don't really synergize with like modern dinosaur cards. Even though all the Dino Wrestlers are dinosaurs, they don't really kind of do anything with like dinosaurs themselves, besides Pank obviously. So that does kind of suck, but it is a cool deck. They are kind of a battle phase focused deck, that's the whole point, because they're dinosaur wrestlers. They will be doing stuff during the battle phase, but as we all know, the battle phase is not the most important phase in the game anymore. So yeah, I think they're cool. The aesthetic is funny. They have some really strong cards. They're a fun enough deck to play, but I don't think they're any better than mid-tier. Unless they get new support in the future, I think they're going to stay here for a while.
Having one good card in Pankratops is more than what a bunch of other decks can say for themselves, so it deserves its spot in the middle of the tier list.
Next up, Code Breakers. Kind of similar to your Topologic. They're not really an archetype in themselves. They have like 2 or 3 link monsters, and that's about it. Similar to Appliancers, they do kind of revolve around co-linking, which, as Luke already said, co-linking is just a bad mechanic. If they're co-linked, they can kind of spam the board and you can link climb fairly easily. And your main payoff is your big link tree that can pop spells and traps up to the number of co-linked monsters, and that's it. You will see some of these cards in like generic Cyberus link decks, but only really as extenders, and they're not even that great. They kind of look cool, and I think the idea of Code Breakers would be cooler if it was kind of like an anti-Cyberus deck. That would be cool, because the whole point is that they break the code. They're kind of like the opposite of your Code Talkers. But no, they're just really bad. They have kind of cool designs, but that's about it. Not really worth talking about.
On Wikipedia, their weakness section is larger than their etymology section, so that should say it all right there. Not a good archetype.
Next up, Code Talkers. I think they belong about... It's really tough to say. I don't think they're above Marincess, but I don't know if they're above Adignisters either. They're a good deck, obviously, but you don't really see people playing it much. So their main gimmick is basically spamming the board with a bunch of Cyberus monsters and you linking your opponent, which basically means that you're occupying both the extra monster zones on the field so that your opponent cannot special summon monsters to the extra monster zone. In combination with something like an Ibli lock, your opponent's locked out of special summoning anything. So it's a really kind of funny gimmick. Very difficult to pull off. It is very weak to hand traps if you're trying to go for the U-Link version. But it can do a lot more. You can obviously easily go into access code and stuff like that. You can get them up to 2 attacks. You can boost them up really high. There's a lot of really good kind of generic link monsters you can go into. Code Talkers are kind of your main engine to go into stuff like your Firewall cards, which I guess we could have ranked Firewall as its own thing, because Firewall does have a lot of new extra cards. but I kind of want to just include it with your Code Talkers. Firewall cards are really cool as well, so we can just kind of give that a boost. It is essentially just Cyber's good stuff, and it's really cool. It is cool that you can play it in a bunch of different ways as well. You can try for your U-Lock, or you can try to just set up some broken Link monsters. But overall, it has not seen the exact same amount of success as decks like Marincess. But I think it's a very good VRAINS deck, so I think it belongs pretty high up.
Yeah, it definitely deserves to be high up, but I don't think it's as good as Attic Nisters. I mostly say that because Attic Nisters have a lot more cards in their card pool that they have at their disposal, but not only that, Attic Nisters actually take advantage of Code Talker's arguably best card, which is Access Code Talker. So the fact you're able to play the best Code Talker card in Attic Nister itself means Attic Nister is probably just the better archetype overall. But Code Talkers are pretty interesting because they do have very good cards, but no one's really doing much with them at all. They recently got a Link 1 that was supposed to like elevate it to like, oh, this is the next level, this is an anime card we've been waiting for it to be printed to make Code Talkers very, very good. But no one really did anything with it. Yeah, it's still a fine card and it can still work well on the deck, but it's just not being able to pull in the wins that maybe a deck, like a main anime deck, should do. It's definitely far from Heroes or anything else like that, so it's a fine deck, especially when we're talking about it in the context of this tier list. But yeah, definitely deserves kind of like in the middle of Borderload Dragon these nuts.
Next up, Altergeist. I'm thinking about here.
I think it's better than Goki, to be honest with you.
Okay, right, we'll put it up here then.
Yeah, I put it a lot higher. Altergeist is one of these decks that is just, it's always going to be rogue. Trap decks are insane that like they can just... you can be so underprepared for trap decks like this that it can be really, really frustrating when you're facing them and they're able to just absolutely pop off doing some really, really powerful things. And it's so infuriating with Altergeist because it's just one of those decks that I keep forgetting how good it is until I'm facing it. It's just really, really good and really consistent. The fact that these guys have effects in the hand as well as on the field is just really, really annoying because they're able to spam themselves out and still search for traps, and you still have a bunch of back row to deal with as well. So not only are you dealing with some heavy hitters in the front, you're also hitting with some like really, really tricky back row to play around. So I think Altergeist is definitely one of the better decks on this list. I think it's overlooked just a little bit.
That's a good point. It always gets like random new support every now and then that really does help it out. Some really strong Link monsters. Their traps are just like very strong and very annoying to play around. Even their like small monsters, they just like bounce themselves to the hand. They have battle tricks. They're a very annoying deck to play against, but they are pretty cool. Shoutouts to DZF. Next up we have Sunvine / Sunavalon, one of the villain decks from VRAINS. Now, if you're thinking like, oh, Sunavalon, Rika, all that stuff, I'm not going to include like all Plant Link type of stuff. We're just going to talk about the same way we talk about Borload in context of Dragon Link. We'll talk about Sunavalon in context of just Sunavalon, not really Plant Link. It is underwhelming when you look at it this way. It doesn't do too much. The main gimmick is that you have your Sunseed Genius Loki, which is a normal monster. You summon it and you link off into your Dryas. Dryas will search you Sunvine Sowing, and basically you are slowly linking up into your Link 4 Sunavalon monster, which can search your trap, and then your big Link 4 can gain a bunch of attack and attack multiple times. So it's kind of gimmicky in that way. It's just like get a big boss monster out, make it really hard to get rid of, and then get it to a bunch of attack and attack for game. It has Sunvine Trasher, which is really good for OTKs, can gain multiple attacks and can boost his attack up by a lot. But overall, it is a very small archetype. A lot of the cards just don't really do anything. But it is very cool, very unique. Really cool that a deck kind of just revolves around like one normal monster and is actually like kind of decent. But yeah, not nearly as good outside of like a Plant Link deck as something like Borload would be. Borload on its own is way better than something like Sunavalon. So yeah, I think it belongs in about the mid tier. Probably, let's be honest, like about here. And finally we have Allure Queens. So Allure Queens, they were an archetype before VRAINS. They had like they were the level type monsters where they would like level up like your Silent Swordsman, stuff like that. Back when Yu-Gi-Oh was awesome and we had really weird kind of gimmicks like level monsters. But they are getting new support, they are getting a cool Link monster. Their gimmick is kind of like equipping cards, so you equip your opponent's cards to them and then they can level up. They got new support very recently with Chaos Allure Queen, and they have more support in the OCG that will be coming out soon. Very cool aesthetic, very funny gimmick. It's cool that an old kind of archetype will get, you know, a revamp, which is great. But overall, very much not the best. It's a funny gimmick, cool aesthetic, all that, but it's not great.
Yeah, they need to change the deck completely, because just the way like Allure Queens are, like what they used to be like leveling themselves up by taking your opponent's monster and equipping them to themselves. There's a few reasons why this is very, very bad. It's just because like they need to be taking monsters that have a level, but considering that your opponent could be playing like Lynx and XZs, which are very, very popular now, those monsters don't have levels, so the Allure Queens can't just like take them for fodder in order to level themselves up. But also they suffer from the same thing that like the armed dragons kind of suffer from, is just the fact that it can be very bricky if you open them in your hand, like the higher level ones, so you can't normal some of them out. And not only that, they can also like be very, very vulnerable to like the likes of Ash Blossom and stuff like that. And also the fact that since they're taking the opponent's monster and putting them in spell and trap card zone, there's no like guarantee that like their effect fully go off, that they're able to level themselves up, because once they're in the spell and trap card zone, they're then vulnerable to spell and trap destruction. So they're not great. The whole deck needs a revamp. The new support that comes out like helps them a good bit, but they're definitely far from the best.
Alright, so that's it for our best anime decks VRAINS tier list. We have done all of the main 6 series of Yu-Gi-Oh! We started with Duel Monsters, we made it to VRAINS. All of the anime decks in the series have been ranked. I think it's fair enough, specifically for this one here. I think Salads are like the best kind of deck in VRAINS. They're just fantastic, and the support they got recently just really shot them up there. They are definitely miles apart of the other decks in the tier list. And of course you got the bottom tiers, which is just like, maybe someday, maybe someday they'll get some support and make them the best deck in the game. But anyway, that's it for our anime deck tier list series. Thanks for watching. If you have any other ideas for tier lists we can do in the future, let us know. If you want to see our content early, we have memberships you can check out. And make sure you check out our affiliate links in the description. We have a TCG player affiliate link which you can use if you want to buy some of these decks in real life, and it directly supports the channel. So thanks for watching, stay tuned for more content.